Chapter 678. Support the original, Chidian Chinese networks. I am decent. The mountain was bare. The grass was withered. There weren't even many trees. There was only a simple and crude village made of wood. Strictly speaking, this was just a desolate mountain. Even the birds that passed by did not want to linger. Sigh. Qin Shujian was bored to death as he sat on a large rock. Beside him was a large saber that was chipped in a few places. Coupled with the patched clothes on his body and the holes in his straw sandals on his feet, he looked like he was about to die. He looked more like a beggar than a bandit. However, he was really a bandit. No, to be precise, he was a bandit. Name: Qin Shujian. Identity: Ordinary Bandit. Affiliation: Liangshan Village. Realm: Level 1 of Basic Martial Arts. Cultivation Method: Level 1 of Body Forging. Scripture: 5 levels in total. Mortal level: Low grade. Equipment: Broken sword, tattered shirt, tattered pants, tattered straw sandals. This was Qin Shujian's current attribute panel. When he first came to this world, he thought he had been reborn. However, after a day of learning, Qin Shujian finally realized that he had become an NPC in the game. As for why he was so sure, because at the bottom right of the attribute panel, there was a countdown timer that kept ticking. 2 days, 15 hours, 23 minutes, 41 seconds until the arrival of the players. Sigh. Seeing this, Qin Shujian let out a long sigh. The players were coming, and his current identity, no matter how he looked at it, was like a cannon fodder NPC in the beginner's village. He existed specifically to give experience to the new players. Killed, resurrected, killed again, resurrected again. Qin Shujian suddenly thought of the scene when he was playing the game. At that time, he didn't feel much about those cannon fodder NPCs. But now that his identity had changed, he deeply felt this kind of sorrow. Wait. Qin Shujian's face suddenly froze. He seemed to have overlooked something. And that was, his body's original identity was indeed an NPC, but now, it had been taken over by someone else, and it was completely replaced. In this way, whether or not he could be resurrected was still unknown. Thinking of this, Qin Shujian suddenly quivered and jumped up from the big rock. No, this won't do. What if he can't be revived? Wouldn't I suffer a huge loss? There are still more than 2 days left. We can't just sit here and wait for death. Qin Shujian took a few deep breaths as he looked at the countdown timer on his attribute panel. It was as if he was looking at his own death timer. It wasn't easy for him to live again. Even if he was an NPC, it was still better than completely disappearing. Even if I have to be an NPC, I will never be a cannon fodder NPC. Qin Shujian silently set a flag for himself. If he didn't want to become a cannon fodder NPC, he would have to increase his level. I mean, strength. Only then would he be able to get out of this awkward situation. This game didn't have the level system that he was familiar with. Instead, it adopted a different division of realms. As for the so-called body tempering scripture, Qin Shujian discovered that there was indeed such a technique in his mind. But that was only a superficial technique to train one's body. It required the accumulation of years and months of practice. There was no way he could master it in a short period of time. But Qin Shujian had his own thoughts. Since it was a game, he definitely couldn't do without killing NPCs to level up. As for where to kill NPCs, Qin Shujian looked at the people walking around and smiled. He was now in a nest of NPCs. There was no need to look for them. The only problem was, he himself was an NPC. Then, could he really get something like experience points or leveling up by killing his own kind? Bending down to pick up the broken broadsword on the big rock, Qin Shujian walked toward one of the bandits who was dressed similarly to him. At the same time, the attributes of that bandit appeared in his mind. Name: Zhang Ergu. Identity: Ordinary Bandit. Affiliation: Liangshan Village. Realm: Level 1 of Basic Martial Arts. Cultivation Method: Body Tempering. Scripture: Level 1, 5 levels in total. Mortal level: Low grade. Equipment: Broken broadsword, tattered shirt, tattered pants, tattered straw sandals. Apart from the name, everything else was exactly the same as Qin Shujian's. He didn't know if it was because of the game's characteristics or because the other bandits were in the same camp as him. In any case, Qin Shujian could see the other party's attributes as long as he wanted to. When Qin Shujian approached that bandit, he was still standing in the same spot. His eyes were looking outside. He stood there motionless like a piece of wood. Qin Shujian also tried to communicate with these people. In the end, the result was apart from him. These bandits were no different from the cannon fodder NPCs in his impression. They didn't know how to talk and had no intelligence. Every day, they ate and rested on time, stood guard and patrolled. It was as if everything was going according to the settings. "Brother." Qin Shujian patted him on the shoulder. Zhang Ergu turned to look at him, then turned back. Ugh! A big hand suddenly covered his mouth, and then he was forcefully dragged behind a big rock. Looking at Zhang Ergu, whose mouth and nose were covered, his hands and feet instinctively struggling, Qin Shujian's eyes hardened. He suddenly raised his broadsword and slashed down. Although the broadsword was broken, it was still abnormally sharp. Poochie, a light sound was heard. It was the sound of a blade piercing into flesh. Zhang Ergu was immediately pierced through. Blood flowed out from the wound. Then, a warm current rose from the broadsword and flowed into Qin Shujian's body. Thump! Qin Shujian's legs gave way, and he staggered to the ground. His chest rose and fell violently, and his face was faintly pale. Murder! He killed someone. Looking at Zhang Ergu, who died with his eyes wide open, and the broadsword in his chest, the dark red blood was particularly eye-catching. Qin Shujian did not expect that killing an NPC would be so realistic. For a moment, he almost mistakenly thought that he was not in a game, and that he was not killing an NPC, but a real person. Fortunately, without waiting for Qin Shujian to be surprised for too long, Zhang Ergu's body slowly disappeared under his eyes. Only his original broken broadsword was left. The moment it lost its support, it fell to the ground. Bang! The soft sound of the broadsword hitting the ground made Qin Shujian completely come back to his senses. Seeing this scene, he let out a long sigh of relief, and his pale face recovered a lot. Good. Although it was a bit too realistic, at least my guess was right. Qin Shujian did not have the guts to kill someone, but it was impossible for him to not frown at all. He just raised his sword and slashed it down so quickly. Qin Shujian finally calmed down. Only then did he remember the warm current that just surged up. He immediately checked his own attributes. Name: Qin Shujian. Identity: Ordinary Bandit. Affiliation: Liangshan Stronghold Realm, first stage of the Martial Realm Cultivation Technique. Body Tempering Scripture First Layer, plus, total of 5 layers, Mortal Level Low Grade, HP. 1 Equipment: Broken Broadsword, Tattered Shirt, Tattered Pants, Tattered Straw Sandals. The status panel was still the same as before. The only difference was that there was an additional HP attribute. In addition, there was a plus sign behind the first layer of the Body Tempering Scripture. Seeing the plus sign, Qin Shujian's mind could not help but move, and he lightly tapped it with his consciousness. He saw his HP instantly drop to 0, and under the cultivation technique, the words Body Tempering Scripture also twisted. Immediately after, a wave of power surged from his body, as if some subtle changes had occurred. Name: Qin Shujian. Identity: Ordinary Bandit. Affiliation: Liangshan Stronghold Realm, second stage of the Martial Realm Cultivation Technique. Body Tempering Scripture Second Layer, total of 5 layers, Mortal Level Low Grade, HP. 0 Equipment: Broken Broadsword, Tattered Shirt, Tattered Pants, Tattered Straw Sandals. His HP directly dropped to 0. His Body Tempering Scripture had changed from the first layer to the second layer, and his realm had also changed from the first layer of the Martial Realm to the second layer of the Martial Realm. My strength has roughly doubled. Picking up the broken broadsword from the ground, Qin Shujian weighed it in his hand, and found that it was a lot lighter than before. His originally skinny arms had faintly bulging muscles. Then he stretched on the spot, and he had a clearer understanding of his body. Every aspect of my body seems to have improved, but it's not as obvious as the increase in strength. He pinched his muscles, and the surface of his skin also had some toughness. This was the effect of increasing the Body Tempering Scripture by 1 layer. The Body Tempering Scripture was similar to the Liangshan Stronghold's cultivation technique. In any case, up until now, all the NPCs that Qin Shujian had come into contact with had cultivated this cultivation technique. As for the Body Tempering Scripture's use, as the name implied, It was to temper the body. To temper the body and nourish one's strength. When the body-tempering scripture reached the 5th layer, one would be able to spread the strength throughout the body, and every move would be able to explode with the strongest power. As for the body-tempering scripture's mortal level low grade, Qin Shujian guessed that it should be the level of this cultivation technique. According to normal theory, this was the lowest level. Above it, there should be something like mortal level middle grade, mortal level high grade, and so on. Even if you haven't eaten pork, don't tell me you haven't seen a pig run? Qin Shujian still had some knowledge of these normal, otherworldly, game theories. As for the HP, killing a Zhang Ergu NPC gave me an extra HP attribute. It should be something that can only be obtained by killing NPCs, but I don't know if it can be obtained by killing players. Qin Shujian's mind spun, consuming 1 HP to increase the body-tempering scripture by 1 layer. Increasing the realm by 1 layer is equivalent to directly increasing 1 level. If this is the case, leveling up in this game is quite easy. After all, in this Liangshan stronghold, these non-intelligent NPCs shouldn't think that their companions are trying to harm them. I wonder if Zhang Ergo has already respawned? All of a sudden, his thoughts drifted away again. Suddenly, Qin Shujian shook his head violently. Thinking about this now was meaningless to him. The most important thing now was to think of a way to increase the body-tempering scripture to the 5th layer. This way, before the players arrived, he could increase his strength to a higher level and get rid of his identity as a cannon fodder NPC. He had set a general goal for the short-term future. Qin Shujian held the broken broadsword and walked out from behind the big rock. Coincidentally, another patrolling bandit came from afar. Qin Shujian also walked towards the other party openly. Like Zhang Ergu, this patrolling bandit did not have any vigilance towards Qin Shujian. Even when he got close, he only glanced at him and directly walked past him. When the patrolling bandit's back was facing him, Qin Shujian grabbed the bandit's nose and mouth with one hand and his throat with the other. Then, he directly dragged the bandit behind the big rock. His cultivation had increased to the 2nd layer of the basic realm, and his strength had doubled. The patrolling bandit was only at the 1st layer of the basic realm. In front of Qin Shujian, it was impossible for him to resist, and he was easily dragged over. He did the same thing. His hand rose and the broadsword fell. Blood splattered again. The patrolling bandit fell to the ground with a puzzled look on his face. This time, Qin Shujian had experience. When he saw the bloody scene again, although his face was still somewhat pale, it was not to the point where he staggered and fell to the ground. However, this scene was too real. It was so real that the thick smell of blood continuously entered Qin Shujian's breath. He could only say in his heart, "This is not real. This is only a game. I only killed an NPC." These words were to comfort himself. He familiarly checked his status panel name, Qin Shujian identity, ordinary bandit affiliation, Liangshan stronghold realm, 2nd layer of the basic realm cultivation method, body forging scripture 2nd layer, total of 5 layers, mortal level low grade, life points, 1 equipment, damaged broadsword, tattered shirt, tattered pants, tattered straw sandals. Just as Qin Shujian thought, his life points did increase by 1 point for every NPC he killed. However, Qin Shujian looked at the cultivation method column and frowned deeply. The plus sign that he expected did not appear this time. This also meant that the body forging scripture could not be upgraded this time. Previously, 1 life point was enough to upgrade the body forging scripture by 1 layer. Now that I have 1 life point, I can't upgrade it again. Is it because I don't have enough life points, or is it because I can't continuously upgrade it? Qin Shujian thought to himself. If it was the first reason, then it would be fine. At worst, he could just kill a few more NPCs. In any case, he did not think that killing an NPC would be enough to upgrade the body forging scripture by 1 layer. If it was that easy, then he would only need to kill a few bandits and the body forging scripture would be maxed out. But if it was the second reason, then things would be troublesome. Because what he lacked the most now was time. If there was a so-called cooldown time for every upgrade, then it would be really bad news. When the bandit on the ground disappeared, Qin Shujian made up his mind to continue testing his conjecture. One must know that any hypothesis had to be tested in practice. Fortunately, Cold Mountain Stronghold did not have much, but they had enough bandits. There were at least 50 bandits gathered in the small mountain. Soon, Qin Shujian left the place. The disappearance of the two bandits did not seem to attract the attention of Cold Mountain Stronghold. Or rather, no one knew where the two bandits had gone. Not long after, Qin Shujian encountered another bandit who was patrolling the mountain alone. With the previous two successful experiences, he already had a lot of confidence. There were no surprises. Almost as if he was familiar with the route, he forcefully dragged the lone bandit to a place that blocked his view. Then, he decisively finished him off. After finishing off the bandit, Qin Shujian checked his status again. Just as he had expected, his HP dropped from 1 to 2. But in the cultivation method column, the second layer of the body forging scripture was still there alone. There were no changes. The expected plus sign did not appear. Qin Shujian took a deep breath and calmed his mind. He could only attribute this to his low HP. After all, he did not want to admit that there was a cooldown time for upgrading the body forging scripture. After suppressing the restlessness in his heart, he immediately chose his next target. 1, 2. Every time he killed a bandit, Qin Shujian would check his status. When he found that there were no changes, he would continue to look for the next bandit. When he killed the fourth bandit, Qin Shujian checked his status again. Finally, his expression changed. Name: Qin Shujian. Identity: Ordinary Bandit Affiliation. Cold Mountain Stronghold Realm. Second layer of the basic realm cultivation method. Body forging scripture second layer, plus. Total of 5 layers. Mortal level low grade. HP. 5 equipment. Damage broadsword. Tattered shirt. Tattered pants. Tattered straw sandals. After his HP reached 5, there was finally a plus sign behind the second layer of the body forging scripture. Without any hesitation, Qin Shujian used his consciousness to click on it. His 5 HP was directly reset to 0. Wong. The words of the second layer of the body forging scripture directly transformed into the third layer in his mind. His realm also went from the second layer of the basic realm to the third layer of the basic realm. A warm current surged from his body and instantly spread to his limbs and bones. His qi and blood also started to boil. At this moment, the space between his flesh and blood seemed to have become closer. His skin, which was originally somewhat pale, now had a bronze-like color. My strength has doubled from my original foundation. Qin Shujian felt as if he had practiced the body forging scripture for many years. He was familiar with the third layer of the body forging scripture. He felt as if he knew every inch of his body's improvement like the back of his hand. His strength had doubled from his original foundation. This was a significant improvement. One had to know. When he had advanced from the first layer of the basic realm to the second layer of the basic realm, his strength had doubled. Now that he had advanced from the second layer of the basic realm to the third layer of the basic realm, his strength had doubled again. In this way, his strength had increased by more than 4 times from the beginning. Furthermore, the increase in strength was not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. After breaking through to the third layer of the basic realm, Qin Shujian suddenly had a premonition that even if he were to face those bandits head-on, less than 10 of them would not be a threat to him. Apart from that, after advancing to the third layer of the basic realm, the various aspects of my body have also improved. Although it is not as obvious as my strength doubling, it is still not a small improvement. After briefly familiarizing himself with the condition of his body, Qin Shujian once again looked at his status panel. The HP column had already been reset to 0. From the first layer of the body forging scripture to the second layer of the body forging scripture, I only need 1 HP. From the second layer of the body forging scripture to the third layer of the body forging scripture, I need 5 HP. The difference is a total of 5 times. After carefully calculating, Qin Shujian felt a toothache. If the difference was really 5 times, then even if he killed all the bandits in the Cold Mountain Stronghold, he might not be able to reach the 5th layer of the body forging scripture. However, after knowing the increase in strength brought about by advancing to the next layer, Qin Shujian felt that it was only natural. Otherwise, the difficulty of this game would be too easy. The third layer of the body forging scripture corresponds to the third layer of the basic realm. Then, the 5th layer of the body forging scripture should correspond to the 5th layer of the basic realm. If this is the case, then the 5th layer of the basic realm should be able to fight against 100 people. Qin Shujian inwardly guessed. That was 16 times the strength of the 1st layer of the basic realm. However, these were all hypotheses and could not be taken seriously. After knowing that there was no cooldown time to increase the body forging scripture, and that there was only a requirement for HP, Qin Shujian felt somewhat comforted. Wasn't it just HP? There were so many bandits in Cold Mountain. Before he killed them all, there was no need to consider this problem. After all, he was only at the 3rd layer of the basic realm and did not need to consider the 5th layer of the basic realm. As a person, one must be down to earth. One step at a time, one must become bigger and stronger. This was the absolute principle. After his strength increased to the 3rd layer of the basic realm, Qin Shujian felt that he could be considered an expert in the Cold Mountain stronghold. At the very least, those NPCs at the 1st layer of the basic realm would not be able to pose any threat to him. Meanwhile, to obtain more HP, it was no longer realistic to wait for the opportunity to strike. Moreover, if too many bandits died, it would be hard to guarantee that the Cold Mountain stronghold master would not notice. After all, a stronghold had a stronghold master, and the stronghold master was the most powerful NPC in the stronghold. Although Qin Shujian had not personally met the stronghold master of the Cold Mountain stronghold, he knew that the stronghold master was not someone these NPCs at the 1st layer of the basic realm could compare with. I must increase my strength as much as possible before the stronghold master of the Cold Mountain stronghold discovers me. This way, even if I am discovered, I can at least guarantee that I can escape if I can't defeat him. After making up his mind, Qin Shujian decided to take the initiative to attack. Previously, when he was fighting the NPCs one by one, the efficiency was too slow. There were only 2 more days until the players arrived. If he continued to waste time, he might die. Soon, Qin Shujian did not walk for long before he saw 3 bandits. 2 of them were patrolling bandits, while the other one was standing guard. When he quickly approached them, Qin Shujian did not hesitate. The large saber in his hand carried a fierce gust of wind and directly chopped at the neck of one of the patrolling bandits. With 4 times the strength of a normal bandit, the broken large saber in his hand was as light as a feather. The speed at which he swung his saber was many times faster. The patrolling bandit did not even have time to react before his neck was chopped by the saber. Bang! A large head flew into the air, accompanied by a spray of blood. This sudden turn of events caused the other patrolling bandit and the one standing guard to be unable to react in time. However, shortly after, the eyes of the 2 bandits flashed with an ominous glint. Even if their intelligence was not high, they could still understand the situation in front of them. Just as they were about to make their move, Qin Shujian was already 1 step ahead of them. He took a big stride forward and swung his large saber in a backhand slash. The extremely fast saber directly chopped at the shoulder of the other patrolling bandit. The blade of the saber cut through the shoulder and directly cut 3 inches below the throat. After a short scream, the patrolling bandit immediately fell to the ground and died. At this moment, the other patrolling bandit had already swung his large saber at him. Qin Shujian immediately pulled out his saber and met the attack head-on. Bang! Bang! The 2 sabers collided, creating sparks. The large saber in the hands of the patrolling bandit was directly knocked away. Then, Qin Shujian swung his saber again and directly chopped the patrolling bandit to death. At this moment, in less than 10 seconds, the 3 bandits were dead. With the strength of a 3rd stage of the martial arts realm, he was able to single-handedly crush these bandits who were only in the 1st stage of the martial arts realm. Qin Shujian was slightly out of breath. It was not as if he did not expend any energy after killing 3 bandits in one go. However, this short confrontation allowed him to have a clear understanding of his own strength once again. Seeing that the fallen bandit had disappeared, Qin Shujian, who had gained 3 HP points, was in a good mood. Holding the large saber in his hand, he continued to search for his next target. Not long after, another bandit appeared in his line of sight. Qin Shujian did not hesitate at all. He directly raised his saber and chopped at the bandit. No, it should be chopped at the NPC. Name: Qin Shujian. Identity: ordinary bandit affiliation. Cold Mountain Stronghold Realm, Martial Realm Level 4 Cultivation Technique, Body Forging Scripture Level 4, total of 5, Mortal Level Low Grade, HP. 2 Equipment, Damaged Large Saber, Tattered Shirt, Tattered Pants, Tattered Straw Sandals. After his HP reached 25 points, Qin Shujian's realm increased to the 4th level of the martial realm as he wished. However, after his strength increased, he had no choice but to stop after killing 2 more bandits. It was not that Qin Shujian had a conscience. Ever since he had never treated the bandits of the Cold Mountain Stronghold as human beings, he had killed so many of them that he no longer felt anything. Of course, it was not that he had killed all the bandits of the Cold Mountain Stronghold. In fact, considering the number of bandits in the Cold Mountain Stronghold, he had only killed half of them at most. The real reason why Qin Shujian stopped was, when he killed the 33rd bandit, he received a notification in his mind. Because you have wantonly killed the bandits of the Cold Mountain Stronghold, you have attracted the attention of the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master, Wu Sheng. The entire Cold Mountain Stronghold has been placed under martial law and is wantonly searching for the murderer. Note: if you kill the bandits of the Cold Mountain Stronghold again, your identity will be completely exposed. After your identity is exposed, you will be expelled from the Cold Mountain Stronghold and become a wandering NPC. You will also be hunted down by the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master. The Cold Mountain Stronghold Master's strength far surpasses that of the bandits of the Cold Mountain Stronghold. Please note, after receiving these 4 system notifications, Qin Shujian had no choice but to temporarily stop. The system specifically reminded him twice about the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master. Obviously, the other party's strength was not to be underestimated. Qin Shujian was not prepared to make a move against the other bandits until he understood the background of the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master, Wu Sheng. He was not very clear about the consequences of being expelled from the Cold Mountain Stronghold and becoming a wandering NPC. However, Qin Shujian guessed that this would not be a good outcome. At least, before he understood the situation, he was not prepared to take any risks. Next, let's go take a look at this Cold Mountain Stronghold Master. Qin Shujian thought for a moment and immediately made a decision. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will be victorious in every battle. If he continued on like this, there was a high probability that he would encounter the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master. This was a good opportunity to probe the other party's background. If he really could not defeat the other party, then he would make other plans. If the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master's strength was average, then he could not be blamed for turning hostile. The Cold Mountain Stronghold was not big. It was surrounded by steep cliffs that were difficult to climb. There was only one path leading up the mountain. There were many strange rocks on the mountain. The only place suitable for building a stronghold was a small area near the top of the mountain. Although the Cold Mountain Stronghold was called a stronghold, it was actually just a dozen or so wooden houses that were grouped together to enclose this piece of land. In the middle of the Cold Mountain Stronghold was a simple and crude hall. On the brown plaque, 3 large words were written in a slanted manner. Hall of Loyalty. Seeing these 3 words, Qin Shujian was stunned for a moment. There was no other reason for this. It was because these words were too familiar. He did not know if all the bandits thought that they were loyal and righteous. There were no bandits guarding the Hall of Loyalty. Perhaps it was because Qin Shujian was a bandit himself, so no one stopped him. After entering the Hall of Loyalty, there was not much space inside. There were only a few tables and chairs placed on the left and right sides. In the center was a wooden table and chair covered with a layer of unknown beast skin. There was a tall and sturdy man sitting there. Unlike the shabby clothes that regular bandits wore, the tall and sturdy man was wearing a complete set of silk. Beside him was a large saber that was half the height of a person. The edge of the saber was shining with a cold light. Even though he was just sitting there motionlessly, there seemed to be a ferocious aura coming from him. The Cold Mountain Stronghold Master. Qin Shujian immediately recognized the other party's identity. His attributes appeared in his mind at the same time. Name: Wu Sheng. Identity: Cold Mountain Stronghold Master. Affiliation: Cold Mountain Stronghold. Cultivation: Martial Initiation. Realm Level 4 Inch HM. Qin Shujian was bewildered when he saw this. When he looked at the bandits, their attributes were completely displayed. But now, When he looked at Wu Sheng, only half of his attributes were displayed. As for the cultivation technique and below, it was completely absent. When he saw Wu Sheng, his suspended heart gradually calmed down. Martial initiation, realm level 4. To be honest, it was somewhat out of his expectations. It was not because it was too high. It was because it was too low. Qin Shujian originally guessed that Wu Sheng was most likely at the 5th stage of the martial initiation realm, or even higher. But now that he was at the 4th stage of the martial initiation realm, it was obviously good news. What are you doing here? Wu Sheng also saw Qin Shujian arrive. He glared at him with a pair of fierce eyes, and his voice was not very friendly. He recognized this person. He was a member of the bandits and could be considered one of them. What left a deep impression on him was the other party's name. He seemed to be called Qin Shujian. For Wu Sheng, this name was hard to remember and not very pleasant to hear. It was far less pleasant than the other bandit names like Zhang Ergu, Li Gua, and Wang Guden. In addition, there seemed to be a problem at Cold Mountain Stronghold today. Many bandits had disappeared, but he could not find the reason. This matter made Wu Sheng even angrier. Now that he saw Qin Shujian, his mood was naturally not good. Stronghold Master, I know the reason why the other brothers disappeared. Qin Shujian coughed and said mysteriously. Wu Sheng's expression froze. Soon after, he anxiously said, "Speak quickly." Wu Sheng's reaction slightly surprised Qin Shujian. Based on the reactions of the other bandits in Cold Mountain Stronghold, he thought that Wu Sheng was similar to the other bandits and should be an NPC without much intelligence. But now, after exchanging a few words with him, he saw the rich changes in his expression. Wu Sheng seemed to be different from the other bandit NPCs. In a sense, he was more like a person. Chapter 679. The sound of the bell echoed in the 4 cities. All the foreign cultivators who were about to step into the territory of the human clan stopped involuntarily. The human clan sensed it. I'm afraid this bell is also a powerful divine weapon. Just from the sound of the bell, we can hear the murderous power in it. Many almighty experts couldn't help but look solemn. Although the army of the human clan was attacking the shadow clan, it didn't mean the power of the human clan had declined to the point where it could be controlled by others. Dong Shun said in a low voice, the human clan was glorious in the ancient times, suppressing all the clans in the world. Now that the ancient times have been destroyed, the human clan is still alive. The appearance of Emperor Zhao and Emperor Qin has given the human clan hope to rise again. However, the rise of the human clan is too short. The foundation of the ancient times has been consumed in the past million years. Xiang brought many experts to attack the Shadow Clan. Even if there are some remaining guards, they won't be too strong. Dongshan was worried that some people would be shaken, so he gave them a shot of confidence in advance. This time, the allied forces of the various clans attacked the human clan's territory not just to force Xiang to retreat. If it was possible, they also hoped to take down several cities in the human clan's territory and weaken the power of the human clan. So, the battle in the Shadow Clan. The Shadow Clan resisted the attack of the human clan, but they also played the role of entangling the main force of the human clan. Don't worry. Since we've decided to join forces to attack the human clan, we won't retreat halfway. A water Eldar expert sneered. Dong Xin glanced at him and said indifferently, "It better be so. Don't forget the domineering nature of the human clan. All the non-human clan forces either submit completely and become a vassal of the human clan or be destroyed by the human clan. Since the birth of the world, countless forces have been destroyed by the human clan. Even now, when the human clan is at its weakest, there are still top clans that have been destroyed by them. His clan was one of the 5 elements Eldar, the Gold Eldar. The Fire Eldar had been destroyed long ago. The Earth Eldar, which represented the Earth Eldar, was also destroyed by the human clan. Until now, only 3 of the 5 elements Eldar were left. The invisible sense of crisis made Kim Eldar want to find a way to save himself. Judging from the current situation, the human race was the one with the greatest chance of destroying Gene Eldar. Because Gene Eldar was a vassal of the demon race, the human race and the demon race had an irreconcilable hatred. There had to be a chance. The human race would definitely not mind weakening the demon race's strength. Other than that, what made them decide to attack the human race was the Dog Emperor's attainment of the Tao. The Dog Emperor attained the Tao. Indirectly, the strength of the human clan had also increased a lot. The stronger the human race was, this made them even more fearful. However, Dong Shun didn't say these words. Everyone had a tacit understanding. While they were talking, the allied forces of the five elements Eldar officially stepped into the territory of the human race. The foreign army is here. Retreat. Yang Yongjun, who had been fighting the players from the western region, suddenly saw the scene in the distance. He didn't even think about it. He immediately retreated. Although the enemy in front of him was hateful, it was not worth it for him to pay the price of losing a level. Therefore, Yang Yongjun retreated without hesitation. He retreated. The other players in the team also retreated. What should we do? The players from the desolate great world had dark expressions. Looking at the retreating players from the eastern continent and the approaching foreign army, they fell into a dilemma. Throw away all the corpses. We're retreating too. Luo Xian gritted her teeth and made a decision. Their strength was only at the spirit martial realm. If they were to face the foreign army head-on, only death would await them. At the same time, the corpses of the demon race were also very cumbersome. It was obviously unrealistic to want to carry the corpses away. Therefore, the only thing they could do now was to throw away the corpses and leave. Otherwise, if they stayed for a while, it would not be as simple as losing a few corpses. This old lady will remember this grudge. We'll meet again in the future. We'll settle this properly in the future. Luo Xian hatefully looked at Yang Yongjun's back as he left. She resolutely turned around and fled. Dozens of merit points were gone just like that. Her heart ached as she watched. Now, if she didn't make a decision, she would be in trouble. Soon, the players from the desolate great world threw away the corpses and left in a different direction from Yang Yongjun. At this moment, the allied forces of the three races numbered in the tens of millions. At this moment, the army was vast and mighty. Their killing intent soared into the sky, and a terrifying aura swept in all directions. On the city wall of Yu City, Qin Yuanbai looked at the army of the three races in front of him with a dignified expression. Standing beside him were Yin Banqing and Fang Xinglan. Gold Eldar, Water Eldar, Wood Eldar. It seems that the five elements Eldar is determined to be the enemy of the human race. Qin Yuanbai's face was cold. The human race's territory was now divided between the Great Zhao and the Qinyuan Sacred Ground. However, the five elements Eldar didn't go to the Great Zhao and instead came to the Qinyuan Sacred Ground. How could he not be angry? Yin Banqing said, "There's news from the Great Zhao, and they're asking if we need help." "No need." Qin Yuanbai shook his head and refused. What a joke. The war hadn't even begun, and they were asking for help from the Great Zhao. Did they really think that the Qinyuan Sacred Ground was shameless? Then, he looked at Yin Banqing and said, "Have all the humans evacuated from the wilderness and returned to the city?" "Most of the humans have withdrawn, but I can't guarantee that everyone will return." After all, the news had been spread. Not everyone would obey orders immediately. "I don't care so much." Qin Yuanbai's face turned cold, and he shouted in a low voice, "Elder Fang, please make a move and activate the formation of the human race's territory to kill the allied forces of the three races." "Okay." Fang Xinglan nodded and immediately formed a few seals. In an instant, a dense light rose from the human race's territory. Countless formation veins and threads formed a shocking formation. Boom. The formation took shape like thousands of horses and thousands of soldiers. A monstrous killing power emerged from it, strangling the cultivators of the three races. Not good. There's a formation. Dong Shun's expression changed, and he immediately blasted out with his palm. The terrifying power blasted a corner of the formation. But the problem was, the formation was vast. Although it seemed to be a complete formation, in fact, it was not related to each other. The destruction of a corner of the formation, it didn't affect the operation of the overall formation at all. In an instant, many cultivators of the three races were strangled. Seeing this scene, the powerful figures of the various races also reacted and bombarded the formation. "The formation lines are under your feet. Destroy the formation lines under your feet." As long as these formation lines are erased, the formation will naturally be destroyed. Dongshin shouted loudly. In Yu City, Fang Xinglan looked at the formation that covered the human race's territory in front of him. His eyes were calm without the slightest fluctuation, although he was a first realm array master. But in fact, Fang Xinglan had also consulted Qin Shujian about the array Dao, and he also had some understanding of the second realm, the formation set up in the human race's territory. Rather than saying that it was a formation set up by himself, it was better to say that it was a shocking formation set up under Qin Shujian's guidance. Emperor Qin has already reached the third realm. The formation in front of me can be said to be a shocking formation of the third realm. Unfortunately, my strength is limited, and I can't completely unleash the power of this formation. However, even so, it's enough for you to suffer. Fang Xinglan revealed a faint smile on his face. The experts of the three races were forcibly destroying the formation lines on the ground, and he didn't make any response or stop them. Qin Yuanbai frowned deeply. Elder Fang, your formation seems to have improved greatly again. Of course. Fang Xinglan smiled slightly but didn't say too much. Qin Yuanbai said, as a first realm array master, Elder Fang is already very strong to be able to unleash such a level. It's just that the three races have sent out many mighty figures this time. I'm afraid there will be a hard battle. In his eyes, the formation could only kill ordinary cultivators. As for experts above the saint level, the formation wouldn't have much of an effect. To put it bluntly, no matter how strong Fang Xinglan was, he was only a first realm array master. If he wanted to match a saint, he needed to step into the second realm. If he wanted to match a mighty figure, he needed to step into the third realm. It could be said that, compared to the cultivation Dao, the array Dao was already very declining. It's going to be difficult. Qin Yuanbai sighed. The allied forces of the three races had a total of 10 mighty figures. On his side, only Fire Sage was at the 8th level of the heavenly human realm. Such a difference in strength was not ordinary. In that case, he might really have to ask for help from Dezhao in the end. As for the loss of the human race's territory, he wasn't worried. Xiao Chengfeng was overseeing the sacred city. With the other party's strength, it was enough to stop these mere 10 mighty figures. After all, he had also seen Xiao Chengfeng's true strength. Moreover, Qin Shujian was confident that the other party would be overseeing the human race's territory. It was enough to show that his strength had already reached a terrifying level, at least from the looks of it now. In the human race's territory, there should be no one who was Xiao Chengfeng's match. Once the formation is broken, you guys join forces with me to kill as many heavenly humans as possible. Elder Niu will cooperate with Fire Sage to kill a mighty figure. We must ensure that nothing goes wrong. Qin Yuanbai turned his head and said to Niu Dali and Fire Sage. The formation couldn't hold on for much longer. If this continued, the formation would definitely be broken. Therefore, what the human race had to do was to take advantage of the moment when the formation was broken before the three races' powerhouses could react and strike first to gain the upper hand. As for the rest, they could put it aside first. This is nothing. Fang Xinglan was confident that victory was in his hands. Elder Fang still has a backup plan? Not only Qin Yuanbai, but even Yin Banqing was stunned. Although they knew that the other party was only a first realm array master, he was already very strong to be able to do this. If there was a backup plan, the two of them didn't believe it. On the other side, Metal Eldar Dongshun destroyed the formation with a punch. Then, a terrifying power rose from his body. Then, he struck out with a palm print. Tens of thousands of feet of golden light erupted with a bang. Wherever the golden light passed, the formation retreated. Don't stay any longer. Let's end this quickly. When the human race's reinforcements arrive, we will definitely lose. Dongshin shouted sternly. He knew that the human race's strength was definitely not strong now. But the problem was, the human race was not fighting alone. The human race also had reinforcements. And the strength of the human race's reinforcements was much stronger than that of the three races. If he were the human race, Dongshin could basically be sure that he would have to ask for reinforcements. Hearing this, the Water Eldar and Wood Eldar's expressions changed. In an instant, The other two races' powerhouses also did their best to attack. In an instant, tens of thousands of feet of huge waves covered the sky and the earth. Countless with spirit's power emerged, causing the earth to shake. The formation patterns emitted a dazzling light, then quickly dimmed and finally completely shattered. The powerhouses of the three races attacked with all their strength. The formation was destroyed like an avalanche. All of a sudden, the Wood Eldar's power seemed to have touched something, which made the Wood Eldar's expression change drastically. Be careful. There's something underneath. What? The Metal Eldar and Water Eldar's powerhouses were confused. On the city wall of Universe City, Feng Xinglan smiled and said softly, "Now, the formation, rise." After saying this, he made a hand seal. The second formation buried deep underground was activated. In an instant, the stars moved and the universe moved in reverse. More heavenly cycle constellations appeared and meteors fell from the sky. Impossible. How could the human race have such a powerful formation expert besides the Qin Emperor? Seeing the meteors fall, Dong Shun's face turned as ugly as Sima's. The threat of the formation was not as simple as the meteors. The universe moved in reverse. It caused the surrounding space to become stagnant. His sense of direction became messed up. Some powerhouses originally wanted to attack the meteors, but in the end, they attacked in the opposite direction. The meteors did not hit them. Instead, they killed many of their own people. Then, the meteors fell. His body was smashed, and he was instantly seriously injured. Damn it, what the hell happened? The cultivators of the three races wailed. Inside the formation, there were not many cultivators who died under the attack of the meteors. More of them died in the hands of their own people. Such a change. It caused many people to be shocked. This formation. Qin Yuanbai started to stutter, and the way he looked at Feng Xinglan had completely changed. Was this still the Feng Xinglan he knew? In front of such a formation, Qin Yuanbai felt that he had to kneel. No, it was not a feeling. He would definitely die. Didn't he see that many of the powerhouses of the three races were injured? The power of such a formation was far beyond the limit of a First Realm formation Grandmaster. Banqing said faintly, "Tell me the truth. Did the Qin Emperor give you this formation?" I can't say. Feng Xinglan smiled meaningfully. For this, the others also understood in their hearts. If it was taught by Qin Shujian, then there was no problem. With the other party's means of covering the entire battlefield, his formation Dao cultivation could be said to be extremely high. Inside the Qianyuan sacred ground, Qin Shujian was originally silently cultivating. All of a sudden, he had a bad premonition in his heart. Then, he looked up at the sky and saw a faint blood color surging. The thunder tribulation. Qin Shujian's expression changed drastically. Even if he had never eaten pork, he had never seen a pig run. He had seen many thunder tribulations. Every time an ancient true immortal broke the seal and was born, there would be a thunder tribulation. That kind of destructive aura, Qin Shujian would never forget. Now, although the thunder tribulation above his head was a little thinner, the destructive power was still terrifying. Get out of here quickly. Otherwise, when the thunder tribulation strikes, the Qianyuan realm will definitely be destroyed. In the Sea of Consciousness, Godslayer urged. He did not expect it either. Why would the thunder tribulation suddenly appear? But there was one thing. However, the God-slaying saber was certain. That was, the thunder tribulation was coming for Qin Shujian. As Zhu Bing, his perception was extremely sharp. The aura of the thunder tribulation in the sky had locked onto Qin Shujian. Hearing this, Qin Shujian did not have time to think too much. He immediately left the Qianyuan sacred ground and rushed towards the endless mountain range. At this moment, the cultivators of the Liangshan spirit domain all looked up at the blood-colored thunder tribulation in the sky. Everyone's faces were both shocked and puzzled. This blood-colored aura looks a little familiar. What do you mean familiar? When Senior Xia Yi appeared, didn't this blood-colored aura appear? Later, when the true immortals of the various clans appeared, didn't this blood-colored aura appear as well? A cultivator was speechless and ridiculed. However, no matter how they thought about it, they could not understand why the blood-colored aura appeared again. The level of the thunder tribulation was too high. These cultivators could not understand too much. But there was one thing, however, they knew about it. That was, the thunder tribulation bred by the blood-colored aura would generally not strike other innocent people. It always had only one target. So, when these people saw the blood-colored thunder tribulation appear, they were not too afraid. Zhongzhou Prefecture. The moment the thunder tribulation appeared, it immediately attracted Emperor Zhao's attention. The thunder tribulation. Emperor Zhao's calm expression also changed. His eyes seemed to have crossed hundreds of millions of miles and directly saw the scene of the Liangshan spirit domain. Then, a puzzled look appeared on Emperor Zhao's face again. How can there be such a weak thunder tribulation? The thunder tribulation had appeared. But the problem was that this thunder tribulation was very weak. Of course, it was weak compared to other thunder tribulations. In fact, although the thunder tribulation of the Liangshan spirit domain was weak, it was enough to threaten a true immortal. At this moment, the thunder tribulation that was originally in the Liangshan spirit domain suddenly disappeared and appeared in the endless mountain range in the next moment. Emperor Zhao pinched his fingers as if he was calculating something. After a while, he shook his head and finally put down his fingers. The thunder tribulation of the rule is hard to calculate after all. However, with the strength of the thunder tribulation of the rule, Emperor Qin should have a high chance of passing it. Emperor Zhao thought to himself. He had no intention of getting involved, because this was the thunder tribulation of the rule. Anyone who wanted to get involved would attract a more powerful thunder tribulation of the rule. When that time came, both sides would die together. In the endless mountain range, Qin Shujian looked at the blood-colored sky above his head and his face was very ugly. Why did this thunder tribulation of the rule suddenly target me? He was racking his brains. He did not understand why the thunder tribulation of the rule would descend on him. After saying that, Godslayer said faintly, "Did you break the oath of the rule?" "How can?" Qin Shujian wanted to refute. However, as soon as he opened his mouth, his face immediately stiffened. In his life, he had not made many oaths of the rule. The oaths of the rule of the heavenly pattern island had been completed. As for the oaths of the rule to persuade the various clans to help, it would take at least 100 years to strike. After thinking about it, there was only the oaths of the rule of the 10,000 race battlefield. Qin Shujian was sure. He did not personally make a move on the 10,000 race battlefield. However, he had taken advantage of some loopholes. For example, he had given out some formations. Qin Shujian cursed inwardly. When he thought of this possibility, his heart palpitated slightly. He was basically certain that this was the reason for the thunder tribulation of the rule. Godslayer said, "Did you do something to the 10,000 race battlefield?" He was not stupid. From the change in Qin Shujian's expression and the thunder tribulation of the rule in front of him, he had deduced something. Hearing this, Qin Shujian replied in a muffled voice, "I didn't do anything. I just left some formations in the 10,000 race battlefield as a backup." "Then you're in trouble," Godslayer said in a pitiful tone. "You're obviously taking advantage of the loophole of the rule oath." "No, you've already violated the rule oath. But because you didn't really make a move, the thunder tribulation of the rule isn't considered powerful. This thunder tribulation will be a warning as long as you can survive it. The warning thunder tribulation of the rule would not continue to strike until the cultivator died under the thunder tribulation. However, this kind of thunder tribulation was equally powerful. If he could survive this tribulation, it would naturally be a warning. But if he couldn't survive it, that would also kill him. Qin Shujian's face darkened. He couldn't be bothered to respond to Godslayer's words now, because the blood-colored thunder tribulation in the sky had been gestating for so long and had finally completed its gestation. Boom! The blood-colored thunder tribulation fell, shattering the void wherever it passed. The aura of destruction. It then covered thousands of miles. Lawful embodiment of heaven and earth. Power rule. Alchemy rule. Casting rule. Array rule. At this moment, Qin Shujian revealed all his trump cards. Boom! An aura as vast as the abyss spread out like a hurricane. Qin Shu Jian took out Godslayer from his sea of consciousness and then slashed fiercely at the sky. Just one slash. The void was turned into dust. The terrifying saber light collided with the blood-colored thunder tribulation. Then, the blood-colored thunder tribulation was directly torn apart, and the saber light sank into the blood-colored tribulation cloud in the sky. In an instant, the blood-colored tribulation cloud surged violently. An even more powerful aura overflowed from it. Not good. Such a change made Godslayer cry out in alarm. Qin Shujian's heart sank. What happened? The tribulation cloud of the Rule Thunder Tribulation cannot be attacked. Otherwise, heaven and earth will think that you are provoking it. This will increase the power of the Rule Thunder Tribulation. You have to be careful, Godslayer said at an extremely fast speed. Hearing this, Qin Shujian's face turned green. You should have said so earlier. He thought that if the blood-colored tribulation cloud was shattered, the Rule Thunder Tribulation would naturally pass. So, the tribulation cloud could not be struck. Godslayer said, the Rule Thunder Tribulation is the punishment of heaven and earth. Just like when your father hits you, if you resist, then you will be committing treason. Qin Shujian was speechless. It turned out that the Rule Thunder Tribulation was like a father hitting his son. Resisting was unfilial, so he could only obediently accept it. A moment later, Qin Shujian said faintly, didn't they say that even a vicious tiger would not eat its cubs? Why would the Rule Thunder Tribulation kill people? At this moment, the power brewing in the tribulation cloud finally reached a limit, and in the end, it struck down with a loud bang. Boom! The myriad tribes' battlefield. The cultivators of the three clans in the human territory had been trapped in the formation for a long time. However, this formation was set up by Feng Xinglan after all. It was not an easy task to trap the Almighty. The effect of the universe reversal was very useful at first, but as time passed, he gradually got used to it. The Qin Emperor's array skills are really amazing. If this formation was personally set up by the Qin Emperor, I'm afraid that in an instant, it would be able to completely annihilate the army of the three clans. Feng Xinglan secretly sighed. He felt that it was a pity. It was a pity that this formation was set up by him, and his strength was not enough. If the Qin Emperor had personally set it up, the army of the three clans was nothing to worry about. This time, Qin Yuanbai did not voice out his own judgment. Instead, he looked at Feng Xinglan and said, Elder Feng, how long can the formation last? It can't hold on for long. Feng Xinglan shook his head. No matter how powerful the formation was, there was a limit. Wait for me to activate the last move. As soon as he finished speaking, Feng Xinglan cast a seal. The formation patterns hidden deep in the ground were completely activated. Terrifying power gathered together, and in the next moment, it exploded with a loud bang. At this moment, the cultivators of the three clans were destroying the formation patterns and the meteorite attacks. They did not have time to be distracted by other things. No one would have thought. Behind the second layer of the formation, there was a third layer of the destruction formation. So, the explosion of the Great Formation completely engulfed all the cultivators of the three clans. Boom! The destructive power exploded with a loud bang. Under the impact of this power, even the void was directly torn apart. The almighties of the three clans were the first to bear the brunt. Dongshun's expression changed drastically. Without thinking, he condensed the gold spirit energy of heaven and earth to himself, turning it into a solid shield to protect himself. Then, a terrifying power came crashing over. The gold spirit shield shook violently, and in an instant, it was cracked by the impact. In the next moment, Dongshan flew out horizontally. The cultivators of the four cities were speechless at this moment. Everyone's gaze fell on the area where the formation exploded in front of them. At that moment, they saw flesh and blood flying everywhere, and also saw the Almighty's bleeding. That destructive power. It made everyone's heart palpitate. Inside the sacred city, Xiao Chengfeng walked out of the city lord's mansion, and his gaze directly saw the scene outside Yu City. This is the Qin Emperor's method. How dare he do this? Xiao Chengfeng's expression was somewhat stunned. He did not expect Qin Shujian dared to do this under the condition that he had made an oath of the rules. There was no reason for it. Xiao Chengfeng was somewhat in awe. Not to mention anything else. Just the fact that the other party dared to provoke the thunder tribulation of the rules, he was very impressed. At least, even with his identity as a mortal Haotsong in his previous life, he did not have the confidence to provoke the thunder tribulation of the rules. Because in the face of the real thunder tribulation of the rules, even a 9th level immortal would fall. If one could not become above the rules, there was no way to go against the thunder tribulation of the rules. Thinking of this, Xiao Chengfeng suddenly wanted to go back and take a look. He took advantage of a loophole, and he directly violated the oath of the rules. If it was a loophole, that would be fine. If it directly violated the oath of the rules, the thunder tribulation of the rules would have already descended. Going back at this time, maybe he could see Qin Shujian for the last time. Forget it. Since he dared to do this, he should have the confidence. After all, the Qin Emperor has the existence above the rules behind him. Xiao Chengfeng thought of the scene in the long river of time and felt relieved. With the other party's foundation, he might really have the possibility to go against the thunder tribulation of the rules. Qin Shujian dared to do this. That was why he was so confident. Xiao Chengfeng was no longer worried about this. I'm afraid the 5 elements Eldar is going to be destroyed. Looking in the direction of Yu City, he felt a little pity. 2 of the 5 elements Eldar had already been destroyed. Maybe under this great tribulation, the other 3 clans would also be destroyed. No matter what, the 5 elements Eldar were all clans that had existed since the birth of heaven and earth. It would be a pity if they were gone like this. Later, Xiao Chengfeng returned to the city lord's mansion and no longer paid attention to this matter. In his opinion, there was no suspense in this battle. Outside Yu City, the aftermath of the destruction gradually subsided. More than half of the allied forces of the 3 clans had fallen. Of the 10 powerful experts, 5 were directly killed, 3 were seriously injured, and the remaining 2 were still intact, only suffering some minor injuries. This result, it was completely beyond everyone's expectations. Kill the powerful experts first, Qin Yuanbai shouted. The next moment, he stepped into the air and charged toward one of the golden Eldar Celestials. At the same time, the Celestials of the Qianyuan sacred ground all attacked. The goal of a transcendent was only to be transcendent. The goal of a saint was only to be a saint. As for the powerful experts, they were killed by Fire Sage and Nyodali. The reason for Nyodali's attack was very simple, because he was an expert at the peak of the saint realm. If he sneak attacked a severely injured powerful expert, he had a high chance of success. In this case, every time the 3 clans lost a powerful expert, it would increase the human race's chances of winning. A golden Eldar had just been hit by the aftermath of the explosion and was about to recover when he saw a big man with 2 horns on his head charging toward him. Seeing this, a cruel smile suddenly appeared on this powerful expert's face. A mere saint dares to attack me? You're courting death. He was seriously injured by the explosion of the array. This had already made this golden Eldar furious. At this time, Nyodali was right at the muzzle. One had to know. At his peak, he was an expert in the 8th tier of the celestial realm. Even if he was seriously injured now, he was not someone a saint realm cultivator could easily deal with. Boom! The power of the golden spirit condensed into a long blade and instantly cut through the sky. Nyodali threw out a simple punch, but it seemed to suppress the void and the sky. An indistinct shadow condensed. Then, a shocking roar came out. Roar! The terrifying roar completely shattered the golden spirit long blade. Then, Nyodali's fist directly bombarded the golden Eldar's body. The terrifying power blasted his body into a bloody mist that scattered all over the sky. A powerful expert had fallen. It completely shocked the other cultivators. The way they looked at Nyodali was also completely different. An almighty expert. Even if it was a severely injured powerful expert, his strength was still extremely powerful. But even so, he was still killed by the person in front of him with a punch. Such a change. Naturally, it shocked the others. So weak. Nyodali touched his own horns, his face a little stunned. He thought that the other party's strength should be very strong since he talked so big. Even Niu Dali had thought about how to escape if he couldn't beat him. Qin Shujian wouldn't blame him. In the end, the other party talked big, but his strength was pitifully weak. He couldn't even take a punch from Niu Dali. Niu Dali found that he seemed to have worried for nothing. Then, his eyes fell on Dongshan. Among the remaining powerful experts, the other party revealed the strongest killing intent. So, Niu Dali had to pay attention. Strike first and gain the upper hand. Strike later and you'll suffer. As the cave master of the Ox Demon Cave, Niu Dali was very clear about this. So, without waiting for Dongshan to speak, he attacked the other party first. If it was in the past, Niu Dali didn't dare to attack a powerful expert like that. But the powerful expert who had just died gave him a lot of confidence. All of a sudden, this green ox found that his strength seemed to be very strong. Although he wasn't as strong as Qin Shujian, but he was still very strong. He punched. The same shadow condensed and the same roar came out. Beneath that roar, Yi Zichen shouted. Dongshan discovered that his spirit god's flesh and blood had been frozen. It was as if he had encountered a supreme existence. Until now, only now did he truly understand why that Almighty had died so quickly. You can't kill me. Dongshan was furious. He exerted all the power of the 9th-level celestial being and forcibly expelled the shock. Then, he punched out. Boom! The two fists collided. His skin cracked and his flesh burst open. Dongshan was sent flying with a look of shock. It wasn't until he landed and coughed up blood that he recovered from the shock. When he looked at Niu Dali again, his eyes were filled with horror. You're not a saint. You're a hidden, powerful expert. Such strength. It was impossible for a saint cultivator to have it. Niu Dali habitually touched his horns and said with a silly smile, It seems that your strength isn't that good. Hearing that, Dongshan's face suddenly turned gloomy. The next moment, the phantom of the long river of rules surged. A vast domain came crashing down. Domain of the powerful expert. Niu Dali felt the stagnant space around him, and his expression changed a little. Whether you're a saint or a powerful expert, you'll die today. Dongshan's eyes were cold. All the gold spiritual power in the world was drawn by him, and finally, it turned into a long blade that emitted endless sharpness. As soon as the long blade was drawn, the overflowing blade energy had already torn the space. The next moment, he directly slashed at the bull demon in front of him. Facing this blade, Niu Dali had a great warning in his heart. When his heart beat violently, it seemed that something was awakening in his body. Then, he transformed into the original body of the green bull and forcibly broke through the shackles of the domain. His 4 hooves stomped on the sky and suppressed Dongshan. Boom! The long blade collided with the bull's hooves and then shattered. The bull's hooves fell. The void collapsed. The power that was enough to suppress the world for eternity completely imprisoned Dongshan in place. Then, the bull's hooves fell on his body in his horrified gaze. Boom! The moment the bull's hooves fell, Dongshan's body shattered like porcelain. The moment his body shattered, before the spirit god could escape, he was completely obliterated by this terrible power. At this point, the only 9th-level Heaven Realm expert of the Gold Eldar had fallen. Dongshan's death made the powerful experts of the 3 clans look horrified. Retreat. At this point, the remaining experts did not dare to fight and retreated out of the human territory. Inside the endless mountain range, the thunder tribulation of rules disappeared. Only Qin Shujian's body collapsed. He lay weakly on the ground, gasping for breath. P.S. Something came up yesterday and I went back to my hometown. The high-speed train will take me back from my hometown, Yangjiang, at 1:00 in the afternoon. Chapter 680. Lying on the ground. His broken body was recovering. The remaining power of the thunder tribulation raged on his body, causing the recovery speed to slow down a lot. Qin Shujian didn't do anything. He just wanted to be quiet. Ever since he broke through to the 8th level of the celestial being, it was the first time Qin Shujian had encountered such a blow. Although he understood the power of the thunder tribulation, he had never really tried it. With his current strength, there were only a few perfected immortals in the 4 major continents who could pose a threat to him. Although some things were not said out loud, Qin Shujian was still quite complacent. It was just that the nomological lightning tribulation just now taught him a good lesson about how to conduct himself. It made him understand. Even the weakest thunder tribulation was not comparable to ordinary perfected immortals in terms of power. In front of heaven and earth, he was still too weak. Sigh. Qin Shujian sighed heavily. He looked at the clear sky with a complicated expression on his face. He was so close. He almost died under the thunder tribulation. He had been in the pugilistic world for so many years. Qin Shujian had never encountered such a great danger. I still can't make an oath casually. The consequences are extraordinarily serious. He finally understood. Why were so many people afraid of the oath and didn't dare to violate it? Such a thunder tribulation. If it were a demon emperor, he would probably have already knelt. An expert who could resist it. Perhaps only the Zhao emperor could do it. However, Qin Shujian also couldn't understand something. Senior, you said that the power of the thunder tribulation was very ordinary at first. Why did it become stronger later? Could it be that the thunder tribulation also becomes stronger with the passage of time? It depends on the situation. Generally, it won't. The power of the thunder tribulation rarely changes, but we can't rule out this possibility. Godslayer's words also sounded like he had survived a disaster. It was too tragic. Under the thunder tribulation, Zhu Bing was also trembling. Because between heaven and earth, Zhu Bing's greatest threat was the thunder tribulation. From ancient times until now, countless Zhu Bing had been destroyed by the thunder tribulation. So, Godslayer also felt fear when facing the lightning tribulation of laws. Fortunately, this time, the might of the lightning tribulation wasn't too strong. Otherwise, it would be really troublesome. Hearing this answer, Qin Shujian did not continue to ask. It was no longer important as to why the lightning tribulation had become stronger. What was important was, he had survived. More importantly, the lightning tribulation had also disappeared. At this moment, Qin Shujian was lying on the ground, too lazy to move. He allowed his body to recover on its own. However, his thoughts had already drifted to the inside of the 10,000 races battlefield. Did I leave anything behind? I don't think so. He just placed some formations in the human race's territory. I wonder if Feng Xinglan activated all of the formations in this battle. If he still left a portion behind, it would be fine if he triggered all of them, but if he only triggered a portion of them, wouldn't that mean that the next time he triggered them, there would be more lightning tribulations descending? He thought of this possibility. Qin Shujian's face also turned pale. Experiencing the nomological lightning tribulation once was enough. There was no need to experience so many times. He had already made his decision. After he recovered this time, he would completely remove all the formations in the 10,000 races battlefield. In this way, this would avoid the possibility of the lightning tribulation descending again. Half a day later, Qin Shujian struggled to get up. Then, he took out the hallow pill from the heaven board and swallowed it. He swallowed 3 hallow pills in a row. His injuries, which had already healed, were completely healed. Western Prefecture, Gold Eldar, Water Eldar, Wood Eldar. At this moment, powerful auras erupted from the territories of the 3 clans. The emperors of the 3 clans directly descended on the human territory. Terrifying auras. They were already wreaking havoc in the human territory. In the human territory, when all the cultivators saw the indifferent expressions of the emperors of the 3 clans, they could not help but feel fear in their hearts. Soon, Huazhan walked out of the East City and looked at the emperors of the 3 clans. He said solemnly, "Why did you suddenly come to the human territory?" When he came out, he had already sent a message back. But even so, Huazhan also felt great fear in his heart. The emperor in front of him. The weakest was a terrifying existence at the 10th level of the celestial being realm. Moreover, to be able to become the emperor of a clan, his strength was also extremely powerful. Although he was at the 10th level of the celestial being realm, his true combat strength was not weaker than an ordinary Nirvana realm cultivator. In front of such a powerhouse, it was difficult for Huazhan not to be afraid. Goldling Huang said coldly. Bin Huang needs an explanation from the human race. In the battle of the 10,000 races battlefield, Gold Eldar suffered the most losses. The only powerhouse at the 9th level of the celestial being realm had fallen. Many of his clansmen had also gone in. This matter, Goldling Huang was extremely furious. However, Goldling Huang was furious. Waterling Huang and Woodling Huang did not look any better. They were basically sure. The formations in the human domain were definitely not the work of ordinary human cultivators. It was also because of this. That was why the emperors of the several clans dared to come over and denounce him. Buzz. A powerful aura crushed the heavens. Qin Shujian walked out with his hands behind his back. He looked at Goldling Huang and said indifferently, Goldling Huang, what explanation do you need from the human race? Emperor Qin, you were the one who left the formation in the human territory, right? Waterling Huang said coldly. Qin Shujian's expression was indifferent. Does Bin Huang need to explain who left the formation to you? If you can't afford to play, then don't play. If you leave the 10,000 races battlefield now and seal the secret realm, you might still have a chance of survival. If you lose, come here and denounce us. Do you really think that Bin Huang is afraid of you? Arrogant words. The three of them were furious. If possible, they wanted to attack directly. However, considering Qin Shujian's strength, the emperors of the three races forcefully suppressed their anger. Goldling Huang shouted in a deep voice, Emperor Qin, let's not beat around the bush. During the meeting of the 10,000 races, all parties have already made an oath to not interfere in the matters of the 10,000 races battlefield. You're breaking the oath now. Do you think I can break it just because you said so? Qin Shujian sneered. Breaking the oath? Why didn't I see the thunder tribulation strike Bin Huang to death? Don't worry about it. Even if Bin Huang broke the oath, it's a matter of heaven and earth. What does it have to do with you? It's still the same sentence. If you can't afford to play, then hurry up and get lost. It's fine if the alliance army of the three races attack the human race, but after losing, you still dare to come over and bare your fangs and brandish your claws. Do you really think you're great? Emperor Qin. Get lost? Qin Shujian opened the human emperor fan and waved it forward casually. Boom. Boundless astral winds erupted and instantly engulfed Gold Spirit Emperor and the other two. In an instant, the three of them had already broken through the void and disappeared on the spot, 1,000,000 miles away. The emperors of the three races fell from the void. Their bodies had already collapsed, and blood splattered all over the ground. They looked extremely miserable. If there's a next time, Bin Huang will crush you to death. The indifferent words entered their ears, causing their expressions to turn ugly. However, their ugly expressions. It was also mixed with a trace of ghastly white. Without fighting, one wouldn't know how big the gap between the two sides was. Until now, only then did Goldling Huang understand how big the gap between him and Qin Shujian was. The other party only used a simple fan to fan him, and not only could he fan him 1,000,000 miles away, but he also suffered serious injuries. In other words, if Qin Shujian wanted to crush him to death, it would definitely not take much effort. Such a fact. It made Goldling Huang feel a sense of humiliation. He didn't even look at Goldling Huang and Goldling Huang. He turned around and left. This battle. No, this wasn't a battle at all. If this matter spread out, Gold Eldar's face would be completely lost. Goldling Huang had already made up his mind. As long as he didn't become an immortal, he wouldn't appear in front of Qin Shujian. As for his departure, Goldling Huang and Goldling Huang didn't stop him. The two of them were also in a daze. It seemed that they hadn't recovered from what had just happened. After a long time, Goldling Huang and Goldling Huang looked at each other. They didn't say anything and also left. In the territory of the human race, Qin Shujian slowly fanned himself with the folding fan in his hand. He turned his head to look at Huajian, who was in a daze. Next time, if there are such idiots, don't send a message to Bin Huang. Just ask Emperor Zhao to come out and kill them. After that, then, he stepped into the void and disappeared. This lowly official obeys. Huajian stuttered as he replied, strong beyond belief. Such strength made Huajian feel that the emperors of the three races were like toddlers who had just learned to walk in front of Emperor Qin. The difference was huge. It was already beyond his imagination. Emperor Qin hasn't become an immortal yet. He's also a celestial being. The difference is too big. Huajian took a deep breath. There would be no harm if there was no comparison. He suddenly felt pity for the emperors of the three races. Such a blow. It would probably make them unable to recover from it. As for the other cultivators in the territory of the human race, after seeing this scene, they were also stunned. Emperor Qin is so strong. Too strong. Now, they didn't know what words to use to describe it. Anyway, he was strong. He was so strong that there was no end to it. Although these people had long known that Qin Shujian was terrifyingly powerful, every time they saw him attack, they were still shocked. They left the territory of the human race. Qin Shujian returned to the East Continent. He was too lazy to enter the 10,000 races battlefield. He only sent the message of dismantling the formation to Feng Xinglan on the 10,000 races battlefield, in the territory of the human race. With the eruption of Niudali and the death of Dongshun, the remaining mighty figures of the three races fled. At the same time, the other cultivators of the three races were also defeated. Kill. Damn it. We can't let them escape. They're all merit points. Chase them. Chase them. I see a heavily injured divine martial artist. The players of the East Continent went completely crazy. For them, these fleeing cultivators of the three races were all experience points and merit points. Killing one was a gain. If he could kill a few more, he would make a huge profit. More importantly, now that they were defeated, they didn't have any intention to resist at all, so it was even easier to hunt them down. An energy sword slashed through the air and directly stopped a water Eldar cultivator. Kill him. Lu Qinghong's expression was cold, and the sword in his hand emitted a bone-piercing cold light. At this moment, the other players in the team also surrounded the water Eldar cultivator in front of them. Scram! That water Eldar cultivator was furious. He only wanted to escape now, because the human race was too strong. If he stayed here, he would definitely die. However, although the human race was strong, it didn't mean that everyone was strong. The ones who stopped him were only a few spiritual God Realm cultivators. No, there were also true martial realm cultivators. In the eyes of this water Eldar cultivator, such strength was not a threat at all. If it was in the past, he would have killed them long ago. But now, the water Eldar cultivator couldn't be bothered to fight. He just shattered the energy sword with a palm strike. Then, he stood up in the air and wanted to fly towards the sky. You want to fly? Dream on. Chao Hong sneered. His long saber slashed down with a force that could split Mount Hua. Mid-grade spiritual artifact. It was compatible with the martial arts he cultivated. The power of this saber strike made the water Eldar cultivator fearful. There was no surprise. He had just flown into the sky when he was forcefully suppressed. Then, the other players in the team all attacked at the same time. One of the players waved his palm, and a green mist instantly swept over. Caught off guard, the water Eldar cultivator directly breathed in the green mist. It's poisonous. That cultivator's expression changed. At this moment, all kinds of attacks bombarded over. 15 minutes later, the water Eldar cultivator's broken body fell to the ground. Airborne realm cultivators are really difficult to kill. Lu Qinghong wiped the sweat off his forehead, and his chest was slightly panting. So many people joined forces. Furthermore, he was only able to kill an airborne realm cultivator who had been scared out of his wits after giving it his all. In other words, if the other party was not frightened by the battle just now and attacked seriously, they would even be killed. Then, Lu Qinghong looked at Lu Qingqing on the side and said, "Put away the body and wait until the matter is over before distributing it." Okay. Lu Qingqing nodded, and then used the storage ring to put away the water Eldar's body. Fortunately, the water Eldar's body was not big, so it was not a problem to put away the storage ring. For this, the others did not have any objections. Soon, the players in the team targeted another foreign cultivator. In this battle, the human race could be said to be flourishing. A formation killed more than half of the cultivators of the three races, and many powerful experts fell. In the end, Niu Dali killed Dong Shun, which became the last straw that broke the camel's back. So, the 10,000 races were defeated. The cultivators who had completely lost their morale had no intention of fighting at all. In comparison, the morale of the human race was high. Many of the weaker humans were able to kill the foreign cultivators who were more powerful than them. Buzz, the long sword cut through the void and killed a gold Eldar cultivator at lightning speed. Ningbo skillfully put away the corpse and then stared at the next target. Let's kill a few more and gather 100 merit points first. He glanced at the storage ring and saw that there were already 6 corpses lying inside. After breaking through the spirit martial realm, he received guidance from Qin Shujian again. Ningbo had made great progress in swordsmanship. That swordsmanship, it could directly kill ordinary airborne realm cultivators. Moreover, he also knew how strong he was. When he attacked, he only chose the right opponent and tried his best to kill with one sword strike. Boom! Shadow Ghost screamed as his body was cut in half by the ancient bronze sword. The powerful sword energy remained in his body. After his body was shattered, Shadow Ghost's spirit deity escaped from his body and was attacked by the sword energy again. After he resisted the sword energy, the spirit deity was already extremely weak. At this point, Shadow Ghost didn't dare to stay any longer and directly urged the spirit deity to leave. Boom! The sword energy cut through the sky and directly annihilated the weak spirit deity. At this point, the first mighty figure of the Shadow Clan had fallen. The Shadow Clan is only a... Xiang looked at the other 3 mighty figures of the Shadow Clan with a cold smile on his face. Hearing this, the 3 mighty figures of the Shadow Clan had gloomy expressions. Ingmei was even more shocked. Xiyang's strength made him feel a great deal of pressure. Especially the fall of Shadow Ghost, it was even more so. Such strength. To be honest, it was not much worse than the emperor of a clan. While he was shocked, Ingmei sneered and said, Xiang, you brought people to attack my Shadow Clan. I'm afraid that the human territory has already been conquered by the 5 elements Eldar. What do you mean by that? Xiang frowned. Ingmei said, don't you find it strange that until now, our Shadow Clan hasn't sent any reinforcements? It's very simple. The 5 elements Eldar has already attacked the human territory with all their strength. After such a long time, I'm afraid that the human race has already lost many cities. Hearing this, Xiyang's heart froze. If Ingmei hadn't mentioned it, he wouldn't have thought that the Shadow Clan's reinforcements would attack the human territory instead of coming to support the Shadow Clan. Such an approach. It was indeed unexpected. However, Xiang wasn't too shocked. So what if they attacked the human territory? There was still Xiao Chengfeng guarding the human territory. As for the former Marquis of Baiyun, Xiang also had a great fear in his heart. He had once asked Emperor Zhao what level Xiao Chengfeng's strength had reached, and the answer he got was, among the heavenly beings, Emperor Qin was first, and Xiao Chengfeng was second. Regarding this, Xiang already had an estimate in his heart. Seeing his silence, Ingmei thought that Xiang was already afraid and couldn't help but say again, it may not be too late for the human race to retreat now. Otherwise, if you continue to fight, even if you take down the Shadow Clan, you will suffer more losses. And from the looks of it, you may not be able to take down the Shadow Clan. Although Shadow Ghost had been killed, but in reality, Xiang had also consumed a lot of energy. They were both powerful figures. Ingmei's perception was extremely sharp. As for the original plan of entangling the human race and giving the 5 elements Eldar a chance to take down the human territory, he didn't plan to do so. Because until now, the Shadow Clan had already suffered a great loss. If they really continued to fight to the death, the Shadow Clan's losses would definitely be greater. When that time came, even if the 5 elements Eldar took down the entire human race, it had nothing to do with the Shadow Clan. Although they were allies, allies didn't mean that they were completely on the same side. When that time really came, it wasn't impossible for the 5 elements Eldar to stab himself with a knife. So, Ingmei now wanted the human race to retreat and didn't want to get involved in other things. Hearing this, Xiang sneered, my human race's foundation is not something you can understand. The Five Elements spirit race also wants to break into my human race's territory. If this is the basis of your Shadow Clan's confidence, then I don't need to waste my time." After saying this, the ancient bronze sword had already erupted with a strong sword chi. Seeing this, Ingmei's expression changed greatly. He didn't expect that Shi Yang would still be indifferent after hearing this news. This matter. Ingmei wasn't sure if the other party was really like this or just deliberately mystifying things. But, at this moment, Shi Yang didn't retreat, which meant that the Shadow Clan might be in a critical situation. Right now, in the Shadow Clan, the human race was already in full swing with the Shadow Clan cultivators. In terms of top combat strength, the human race was much stronger than the Shadow Clan. The only 4 powerful figures had all been blocked by Shi Yang, and the strongest remaining were the Saint cultivators, Su Zhan and Dan Hao. They were all almighty-level experts. When the two of them attacked, almost all the Saint cultivators of the Shadow Clan were taken care of. As for the ordinary Celestials, that was even less of a problem. Moreover, the Great Zhao army could form a military formation. The millions of soldiers were well-trained and could attack and retreat in a battle. The scattered cultivators of the Shadow Clan couldn't compare to them at all. If the Shadow Clan still had any advantage, it was probably their ghostly killing methods. But within the military formation, blood and chi soared to the heavens. Although the Shadow Clan could kill and injure some human cultivators, most of them were still killed by the human cultivators. Therefore, from the start of the battle until now, many human cultivators had died, and the Shadow Clan cultivators had suffered even heavier losses. Kill. A human cultivator dodged a sudden shadow stab with a step and slashed at the Shadow Clan cultivator in front of him with a ferocious expression. All of a sudden, the Shadow Clan cultivator in front of him disappeared, and a long black blade pierced through the human cultivator's chest. The intense pain caused the human cultivator's face to twist. However, he didn't fall to the ground because of this. Instead, he turned his hand and stabbed the Shadow Clan cultivator behind him. As the Shadow Clan cultivator fell, the black saber that was stuck in his chest had already slowly disappeared. Instantly, that human cultivator clutched his chest, blood gushing out from between his fingers as he gasped for breath. "Old Zhao, are you dead?" Beside him, a human cultivator laughed as he killed a Shadow Clan cultivator. Then, he looked at that human cultivator with concern in his eyes. Hearing that, Old Zhao forced a smile and scolded, "Scram! How can a puny Shadow Clan cultivator take my life? Seeing that you're still full of energy, you won't die." "I won't die." Old Zhao grimaced in pain. A cultivator's powerful healing ability was slowly healing his physical injuries. That blade just now, it had completely grazed his heart. If it had been just a little bit more, it would have been a fatal wound. Thinking back to the moment of life and death just now, Old Zhao's aura fluctuated slightly, and at this moment, he became even stronger. "You broke through to the outer aura realm." The human cultivator who spoke earlier was astonished. "I was lucky to break through. Hee, this round of injuries wasn't a loss." Old Zhao laughed. After swallowing a pill to recover, he immediately aimed at the next Shadow Clan cultivator and charged over with his blade. In a battle of life and death, some humans broke through their previous shackles and reached a higher level. But there were also humans who fell under the blade of the Shadow Clan. Boom! A powerful Shadow Clan cultivator self-destructed. The terrifying power caused Shi Yang to cough up blood as he retreated. After the first powerful Shadow Clan cultivator self-destructed, several more Shadow Clan cultivators self-destructed, causing the human cultivators to suffer heavy injuries. Ingmei shouted loudly, "Retreat!" Then, the Shadow Clan cultivators retreated. In the end, the Shadow Clan didn't have any way to resist the humans' attack. So, Ingmei could only cut off part of the territory and shrink the Shadow Clan's territory. At the same time, one by one, the Shadow Clan cultivators leapt up and exploded in the air, turning into black shadows. In the end, a vast canopy covered half of the Shadow Clan's territory, completely isolating the human cultivators. Shadow Canopy. This was the Shadow Clan's life-saving method. Every time it was used, many Shadow Clan cultivators would die as the price. Unless they had no other choice, the Shadow Clan wouldn't use the Shadow Canopy. And the Shadow Canopy was also extremely powerful. Even if a powerful cultivator wanted to break it, it wouldn't be an easy task. As the canopy formed, tens of millions of Shadow Clan cultivators self-destructed and died. Crown Prince, what should we do now? Dan Hao rose into the air. His current appearance was a bit wasteful. The battle just now. Dan Hao was blasted in the face by a Saint cultivator's self-destruction. It was inevitable that he would be injured. Hearing this, Shiyang shook his head and said, "The Shadow Canopy has formed. Unless an emperor personally makes a move, there's no hope of breaking it even with the help of Zhu Bing. Let's ignore it for now." It was impossible for an emperor to make a move. As for Zhu Bing, the only Zhu Bing that could be used were the two Zhu Bing in Xiao Qingfeng's hands. However, the other party obviously wouldn't make a move easily. In this way, the Shadow Clan's Shadow Canopy had no hope of breaking it in a short period of time. In Shi Yang's opinion, this didn't have much to do with it. Even though the Shadow Canopy couldn't be broken, the human clan had occupied half of the Shadow Clan's territory. They had already achieved their goal of plundering the general trend of heaven and earth. More importantly, once the Shadow Canopy was set up, the Shadow Clan wouldn't easily break it. After all, the protective barrier was finally set up at the cost of the lives of tens of millions of clansmen. If it was easily broken, then the Shadow Clan would suffer a great loss. In other words, the human clan occupied the Shadow Clan's territory in a short period of time. They didn't need to worry about the Shadow Clan stabbing them in the back. Pass down my order. Immediately send people over to build a teleportation gate. In addition, clear out the remaining Shadow Clan members here and turn all these cities into ours. Shiyang decisively gave the order. The cities were ready-made. In the battle just now, not many cities were damaged. In this way, the human clan had basically made a profit for free. They only needed to send people to check the cities inside and out and eliminate the backup left by the Shadow Clan. The rest of the matter, it was much simpler. After receiving the order, the human clan cultivators moved into the cities on a large scale. At the same time, they sent people to send a message back to the human clan's territory, asking the formation masters to come over and build a teleportation gate. The entire 10,000 clan battlefield. It was only tens of millions of miles. One teleportation gate was more than enough. It didn't need something as advanced as a teleportation array to connect with the eastern continent. In the human clan's territory, in the territory of the Great Zhao Empire, Duan Sun received Shi Yang's message and immediately smiled. The Crown Prince has already conquered half of the Shadow Clan's territory. The remaining Shadow Clan members have already set up the Shadow Canopy. There won't be any threat in the short term. That's great. Yes, after conquering the Shadow Clan, the human clan will definitely be able to occupy more of the world's general trend. The other experts from the Imperial Court all looked excited. This could be said to be the first victory of the human clan. After the excitement, Marquis Yunyang said, "The Five Elements Eldar Coalition Army has suffered a crushing defeat in the Qinyuan Sacred Ground. Now the Five Elements Eldar's strength has been greatly reduced. If possible, our next target can be the Five Elements Eldar." I didn't expect the Qinyuan Sacred Ground to have such a strong cultivator besides the Qin Emperor. Alas, hearing this, some Imperial Court cultivators sighed. The battle in the Qinyuan Sacred Ground. They all saw it with their own eyes. The allied army of the Five-Element Spirit race had 10 powerful people personally taking action. Even the Great Zhao side would not be able to contend against this kind of power, given that Shiyang had left with a portion of the strong people. But what they never expected was, such a powerful force directly fell in front of the Qinyuan Sacred Ground. The army was defeated. More than half of the powerful cultivators had died. Looking at the Qinyuan Sacred Ground, not a single celestial had died. Such a result, it could be regarded as an unprecedented victory. Duan Sun shook his head and said, "It's not appropriate." The Five Elements Eldar was crippled by the Qinyuan Sacred Ground. At this time, if we attack the Five Elements Eldar, it will inevitably be suspected of robbing the battle achievements. In this way, the relationship between the Great Zhao Empire and the Qinyuan Sacred Ground will be cracked. And don't forget that the Qin Emperor has a very hot temper. If we really anger him, Even the Zhao Emperor may not be able to help. Hearing this, the excitement on the other people's faces lessened a lot. Indeed, the five elements Eldar was crippled by the Qinyuan sacred ground. If they really wanted to attack, it wouldn't be their turn, unless they wanted to break off with the Qinyuan sacred ground. Fang Yilan said the biggest reason why the Qinyuan sacred ground was able to defeat the five elements Eldar was because of that formation. In my opinion, the Qinyuan sacred ground can't have such a powerful formation master. Grand Secretary Fang, what do you mean? If I'm not mistaken, that formation was probably created by the Qin Emperor. Fang Yilan said in a deep voice. As a second realm array Dao Grandmaster, she could see more things. The formation master of the Qinyuan sacred ground. Excluding the Qin Emperor, there was only Fang Xinglan. As for Fang Xinglan's strength, Fang Yilan knew very well. After all, the formation of the human race had declined, and there were only a few formation masters. As a formation master, how could she not have met Fang Xinglan? But with Fang Xinglan's means, he couldn't set up such a powerful formation. Marquis Yunyang frowned and said, all the clans have made an oath that the emperors are not allowed to interfere in the affairs of the 10,000 clans battlefield. If the Qin Emperor took action, wouldn't he violate the oath? You'll have to ask General Duan about this. Fang Yilan smiled. Duan Sun's smile faded a little, and he said slowly, there's news that not long ago, a thunder tribulation appeared in the spiritual domain of Mount Liang, and then it moved to the Endless Mountains. Also, the five elements Eldar emperors appeared in the human territory and wanted to denounce the Qin Emperor. However, the Qin Emperor took action and fanned the five elements Eldar emperors 1,000,000 miles away, scaring all the emperors away. In that case, it really was the Qin Emperor's doing. Fang Yilan nodded. She wasn't too surprised by this result. The only surprise was, it was probably that Qin Shujian really dared to violate the oath and survived the thunder tribulation. However, what the others paid more attention to was Duan Sun's last sentence. With one fan, he fanned the five elements Eldar emperors 1,000,000 miles away, scaring all of them away. Such strength. People couldn't help but be fascinated by it. At the same time, some of the ideas of the five elements Eldar had been completely dispelled. Picking peaches was fine, but they had to be able to take a beating. If they couldn't even withstand one fan, they could only wait for death. Duan Sun said, it's enough that we were able to take down the Shadow Clan. The Crown Prince wants you to go to the Shadow Clan's territory and set up a portal there. That's easy. I'll go there right away. Fang Yilan nodded. After that, Duan Sun went on, I've sent the news back to the imperial court. It won't be long before powerful cultivators head to the western province and take over the Shadow Clan's territory. However, the Shadow Clan's defeat and the five elements Eldar's heavy injuries will definitely make the other clans more wary of us humans. In order to avoid sneak attacks from powerful cultivators, we need to send out all the scouts during this period. If anything unusual happens, come back and report it as soon as possible. Shiyang wasn't here. Duan Sun became the person who temporarily gave orders. As one of the five great generals, he was much more proficient than the others when it came to marching, fighting, and deploying troops. In this regard, the others didn't object. Soon, Duan Sun's order was sent out. In the Great Zhao Empire, human cultivators were sent out in large batches to act as spies in the dark. Immediately after that, Fang Yilan also set off for the Shadow Clan's territory. However, she wasn't going alone. Marquis Qinshan, Gu Changqing, and Marquis Yunyang accompanied her. As a second Realm Array Grandmaster, Fang Yilan was more precious than the average powerful cultivator. At this moment, there might be some forces secretly watching the human cultivators and then looking for the right opportunity to attack and kill them. Therefore, the humans didn't dare to let down their guard. In order to ensure that nothing goes wrong, Marquis Qinshan and Marquis Yunyang's main goal was to escort them. In the Shadow Clan's territory, after the Shadow Canopy was set up, the Shadow Clan's tense hearts relaxed a little. Soon, they were depressed again. In this battle, the Shadow Clan suffered a crushing defeat. 2 powerful cultivators fell, and more than a dozen Celestials were killed or injured. Not only that, in the end, The shadow canopy was set up, causing the deaths of tens of millions of Shadow Clan members. Of the dozen or so celestials who died, half of them turned into the energy of the shadow canopy. It could be said that the number of cultivators who died in the hands of the humans was not as many as the shadow canopy. But if they didn't set up the shadow canopy and continued to fight, the Shadow Clan would suffer more casualties. What they did now was equivalent to cutting off their wrists. Inside the movie city, Ing Mei's face was terrifyingly gloomy. Beside him were the few remaining celestials of the Shadow Clan. The dark shadow canopy has already been set up. Unless the humans request the assistance of their ancestral armaments, it will be impossible for them to break through the dark shadow canopy. However, if they are to borrow the might of their ancestral armaments, the 10,000 races battlefield will likely be destroyed. Therefore, the probability of the humans sending out Zhu Bing is not high. Suppressing the anger in his heart, Ing Mei calmly analyzed. Now that we have set up the shadow canopy, we have a chance to catch our breath. Now, the first thing we need to figure out is how the 5 elements Eldar is doing on the human side. But the problem is, now that the shadow canopy is set up, we can't go out. A Shadow Clan celestial shook his head and said. Hearing this, Ing Mei's face was cold. If we can't go out of the shadow canopy, can't we inquire about information from the 4 major continents? This time, if he didn't figure out the matter of the 5 elements Eldar, he felt that he wouldn't feel comfortable no matter what. Thinking of the losses in this battle, Ing Mei's heart ached again. P.S. Support the original version, Chidian Chinese networks, I'm really decent. Chapter 681. The situation on the 10,000 tribes battlefield was changing rapidly. The human race had conquered half of the Shadow Clan's territory, and the various clans also had victories and defeats. In the midst of the great battle, there was no way to avoid the deaths of living beings. The blood of these fallen creatures seeped into the ground and was gradually absorbed by the divine weapon. Meanwhile, after absorbing the blood of living beings, the divine weapon was also slowly expanding. However, this expansion was very slow. It wasn't something that anyone could detect. But at the same time, it wasn't that no one was able to detect it. The world is expanding. No, the 10,000 tribes battlefield is expanding. Xiao Chengfeng closed his eyes and spread out his perception. Instantly, he discovered these clues. The pressure of the 10,000 tribe battlefield. There was no way to restrict his spiritual perception. Therefore, as long as Xiao Chengfeng willed it, half of the 10,000 tribe battlefield would fall into his perception. Because of this, Xiao Chengfeng could sense that the 10,000 tribe battlefield was expanding, absorbing the blood of 10,000 races to forge a divine weapon. Could it be that the Qin Emperor wants to forge a world-shaking divine weapon? Xiao Chengfeng opened his eyes, and his expression became complicated. The 10,000 tribes battlefield was already very strong. If someone was able to control it, it would be enough even if it was comparable to a 9-seal Dao treasure. However, this was far from the limit of this divine weapon. Xiao Chengfeng found it hard to imagine how powerful this divine weapon would be when it reached its peak, comparable to Zhu Bing. However, it was hard to say how many tribulations Zhu Bing was comparable to. Xiao Chengfeng did not think too much about this matter. He focused his attention on himself. I've stopped at the 7th layer of the Sky Human stage for quite some time. After another 1 or 2 months of polishing, I will be able to break through to the 8th layer of the Sky Human stage. Judging by the current situation, I should be able to polish my cultivation base to perfection within 3 years. After polishing my realm to perfection, I can break through to the true immortal realm, becoming an immortal in 3 years. This was the goal that Xiao Chengfeng had set for himself. That wasn't right either. This was all part of Xiao Chengfeng's plan. Becoming an immortal in 3 years was his plan. For the reincarnation of immortal monarch Haozong, the leap from diviner to true immortal had never been difficult. It was truly difficult. It was the leap from the 9th level of immortal to the level above the natural order. But the problem was, if one wanted to break through beyond the precepts, one had to lay down a strong enough foundation at every step. In this way, only then would a breakthrough at the last minute become a matter of course. Therefore, the purpose of Xiao Chengfeng's reincarnation was to take a peek at the rules. If it was just for the sake of becoming a true immortal or even recovering the cultivation level of his previous life, there would be no need for him to recultivate. Inside Yu City, the humans began to clean up the battlefield. Although the corpses would return to heaven and earth, there was a prerequisite, and that was that no one picked them up. Once it was picked up by someone, in that case, the corpses would be considered as spoils of war by default. Naturally, there would be no such thing as returning to heaven and earth. The five elements Eldar. In the first place, they were born from the five elements of heaven and earth. In the end, they developed flesh and blood and became true living beings. In essence, the five elemental Eldar was a rare material. A high-level five elements Eldar was an even more precious treasure. Therefore, the corpses of the five elements Eldar could not be wasted. Five elements essence. Ling Huayu's eyes turned red. Her original natural and unrestrained attitude had completely disappeared at this time. With the essence of the five elements in hand, she was confident that she could forge a powerful divine weapon that was comparable to a Tao artifact. As a Grandmaster Forger, there was nothing more exciting than forging a divine weapon. Thinking of this, Ling Huayu suddenly rose into the air, and her voice was directly transmitted. As long as there are 10 corpses of the five elements Eldar of the God martial arts realm, no matter what realm, I can forge a top spiritual weapon for free. The power of the spiritual weapon is no less than a 2-seal Tao artifact, and there is no upper limit. If there are corpses of the five elements Eldar of the Deva realm, you can also come to me. At that time, we will discuss the specific forging matters. Her voice spread. It covered the entire battlefield. Those human cultivators and players couldn't help but look at Ling Huayu, and then looked at the corpses of the five elements Eldar in their hands. Their eyes suddenly became fiery. Top spiritual weapon. This term, which was extremely unfamiliar in the past, was now completely rooted in people's hearts. The reason was, it was because the top spiritual weapon came from the hands of Qin Shujian. At this point, only then did the others know. It turned out that a spiritual weapon could also be comparable to a Tao artifact. This kind of spiritual weapon had a name, which was called a top spiritual weapon. 10 corpses of the God martial arts realm. It was about equivalent to 1,000 merit points. 1,000 merit points could be exchanged for the most basic Tao artifact, which was a 1-seal Tao artifact. The true precious role of a 1-seal Tao artifact was to suppress fate and have the possibility of independent growth. But the problem was, now that the fate of the sects in the world belonged to the Qinyuan sacred ground, it was not very useful for ordinary people to exchange for a Tao artifact. The only function was probably to suppress one's own fate. In this way, the role of a Tao artifact would be reduced a lot. As for the possibility of independent growth, that was even more nonsense. A Tao artifact's growth could easily take thousands of years. After such a long time, unless one was a true immortal expert, otherwise, one would turn into ashes. So, such a Tao artifact could generally only be used as an inheritance of a family or sect. It was used to bless the younger generation. As for oneself, there was no way to enjoy it too much. In comparison, a top spiritual weapon, which was at least comparable to a 2-seal Tao artifact, was more practical. Moreover, Ling Huayu said that it was at least a 2-seal Tao artifact. If one was lucky, wouldn't it mean that it had the possibility of being comparable to a 3-seal Tao artifact? Such a deal. Basically, no one would refuse. After shouting, Ling Huayu landed on the city wall. Embark coughed and asked, if there are celestial corpses, what kind of magic weapons can Elderling forge? Eldarine, how many celestial corpses do you have? What are their levels? There are 2 golden Eldar celestial corpses. One is at the 3rd level of the celestial being realm, and the other is at the 1st level of the celestial being realm. Embark looked at the storage ring and then gave an answer. He had picked up the corpse at the 3rd level of the celestial being realm. Or else, with Embark's strength at the 1st level of the celestial being realm, there was no way he could kill a golden Eldar at the 3rd level of the celestial being realm. Hearing this, Ling Huayu suddenly looked a little excited. Eldarine, if you give these 2 corpses to me, I am confident that I can forge a magic weapon comparable to a 3-seal Dao artifact, or at least a 3-seal Dao artifact. The third level of the celestial being realm was just right. If it was at the saint level, she was not confident that she could forge it. The third level of the celestial being realm. It was the most suitable casting material. Compared to Ling Huayu's excitement, Yin Banqing's face was slightly stiff. You are confident? That is to say, there is a possibility of failure? Ling Huayu rolled his eyes. Elderine, if there is a 100% success rate, it is probably at the level of the Qin Emperor. Besides, even if it is the Qin Emperor who forges a magic weapon, I am afraid that it will not fail. Casting was naturally risky. If the casting failed, it would be a failure. Suddenly, Yin Banqing hesitated. Ling Huayu said patiently, Elderine, think about it carefully. A 1-seal Dao artifact only costs 1,000 merit points, a 2-seal Dao artifact already costs 3,000 merit points, and a 3-seal Dao artifact costs 10,000 merit points. A corpse at the third level of the celestial being realm can only be exchanged for 1,500 merit points. Plus the corpse at the first level of the celestial being realm, it is only 2,000 merit points. With such merit points, you can't even exchange for a 2-seal Dao artifact. Now, as long as you give me the corpse, you will have a chance to get a top magic weapon comparable to a 3-seal Dao artifact. Isn't this a good deal? Ling Huayu's words. Yin Banqing was a little tempted. If that was the case, it was indeed more cost-effective to give the corpse to Ling Huayu to forge a magic weapon. However, the possibility of failure was really a little f***ket up. Yin Banqing looked suspicious. Elder Ling is forging a magic weapon for me for free. I wonder what benefits it will bring you? I have reached a bottleneck. If I forge a magic weapon, there is hope to break through this bottleneck. Ling Huayu didn't hide anything and said calmly, if it was in the past. In the past, she was already at the peak of forging when she was a grandmaster. But with the appearance of the human emperor forging technique, Ling Huayu really knew that breaking through to the grandmaster level was just a new starting point. Just like the array grandmaster, the grandmaster level of forging was also divided into 3 realms. Now, she was only in the first realm. There were still the second and third realms. According to Ling Huayu's guess, Qin Shujian was very likely in the third realm. It was just that if a grandmaster wanted to break through, in addition to a flash of inspiration, he also needed to forge a large number of magic weapons and gain some experience from it. Hearing that, Yin Banqing also felt relieved in his heart. If that was the case, then it made sense. He wasn't worried about any problems. It was just that Ling Huayu suddenly became so kind that Yin Banqing wanted to know more. The cleaning of the war. It didn't last for very long. Not long after, everyone cleaned up the corpses. Every battle, no matter how great the victory was, meant that there would be deaths and injuries. For these things, Qin Yuanbai and the others were already very open-minded. Deaths and injuries were inevitable. If any race wanted to rise, they couldn't avoid bloodshed. Now, some people died. In the future, fewer people would die. In the city lord's mansion, Qin Yuanbai said, those cultivators who are seriously injured and can no longer fight, let them choose. If they want to stay in the 10,000 tribe battlefield, they can still stay here. If they want to go back, they can also be escorted back. As for resources, send a batch over every year. At least they won't be disappointed. In the end, Qin Yuanbai added, this is what Emperor Qin wants. I'm just conveying it. That's the best way to do it. Xia Kun nodded. The other elders also didn't raise any objections. After all, these cultivators all fought for the human clan, which was why they ended up in such a situation. It was reasonable. They had to be treated well. Otherwise, the human clan's heart would be broken. Moreover, they didn't want to be kicked out by the Qinyuan sacred ground to fend for themselves if they ended up in such a situation one day. After briefly conveying Qin Shujian's message, Qin Yuanbai said, also, Emperor Qin hopes that Elder Fong will remove all the backup plans he left in the human clan's territory. They can't be used again in the future. What? Fong Xinglan was stunned and then said in confusion, if we do this, then the defense of the Qinyuan sacred ground will be weakened a lot. The victory of this battle A large part of the reason was the effect of the formation. If all the backup plans of Qin Shujian were removed, then the defensive strength of the Qinyuan sacred ground would be weakened by at least half. Qin Yuanbai coughed lightly. There is news that not long ago, a thunder tribulation appeared in the Liangshan spiritual domain and finally struck down in the Endless Mountains. It is suspected that it was aimed at Emperor Qin. He only said half of these words, but at this time, the others suddenly understood. No wonder. No wonder Emperor Qin wanted to remove the backup plans. It turned out that he was targeted by the thunder tribulation. Seeing this, Fang Xinglan couldn't say anything more. The defensive strength of the human clan's territory was important, but at the same time, the safety of Qin Shujian was more important. If he was killed by the thunder tribulation, then the Qinyuan sacred ground would be disbanded. And, before Emperor Qin was killed by the thunder tribulation, he would probably come to the 10,000 clan battlefield to kill him. I heard that the Great Zhao Empire has already taken half of the Shadow Clan's territory, forcing the Shadow Clan to set up a dark shadow canopy to defend, Qin Yuanbai said. Dark shadow canopy? Some elders looked puzzled. This name was very unfamiliar to them. The Golden Rock King said in a deep voice, the dark shadow canopy is one of the trump cards of the Shadow Clan. It is a powerful defensive means set up at the cost of the lives of many Shadow Clan members. The strength of the dark shadow canopy depends on the strength of the Shadow Clan cultivators sacrificed. I heard that in ancient times, there was a Shadow Clan true immortal who set up the dark shadow canopy. Even if the ancient emperors wanted to break it, it was not an easy task. The people who came out of Tianwen Island, the Golden Rock King had the knowledge of ancient inheritances, methods like the dark shadow canopy. Unless one had a deep understanding of the Shadow Clan, there were not many cultivators who really knew about it. The Great Zhao Empire had long planned to deal with the Shadow Clan, so they were very familiar with the dark shadow canopy. But on the Qinyuan sacred ground side, it was a lot worse. After hearing the Golden Rock King's explanation, the others also had a deep understanding of the dark shadow canopy. Qin Yuanbai nodded and said, the dark shadow canopy can be put aside for now. Now that most of the 5 elements Eldar have been killed or injured, their strength has weakened a lot. We may be able to take advantage of this opportunity to take down the 5 elements Eldar's territory. Otherwise, if the 5 elements Eldar's strength is weakened, I'm afraid that other clans will target them. The Great Zhao Empire had already taken down half of the Shadow Clan's territory. If the Qinyuan sacred ground did not make any progress, it would be a little awkward. So, the 5 elements Eldar's attack on the human clan's territory this time was both a bad and a good thing. At least the Qinyuan sacred ground could defeat the 5 elements Eldar. Next, they could take advantage of this opportunity to wipe out the 5 elements Eldar in one fell swoop. Attacking the 5 elements Eldar is a good opportunity. Cui Huai nodded, and then his expression became hesitant again. But the problem is that although the 5 elements Eldar's strength is weakened, there are still powerful figures. It won't be easy for us to take them down. Hearing this sentence, the others also felt a little heavy in their hearts. The drawbacks of the Qinyuan sacred ground. At this time, they were exposed again. Without enough powerful figures, they could only passively defend and had no opportunity to attack. Cui Huai's words. It was heart-wrenching. Qin Yuanbai pondered for a moment and said, it's impossible for us to take down all the 5 elements Eldar. In my opinion, it's better to integrate our forces and attack one of the clans with all our strength. Although Nyodali is a saint cultivator, his strength is enough to kill a master in the 9th tier of the celestial being realm. It's no problem for him to lead the attack. With Holy Fire's assistance, none of the 5 elements spirit clans will be able to stop them. That's appropriate. In Banching nodded slightly. The Qinyuan sacred ground was not necessarily weak. At the very least, the strength that Nyodali showed in this battle really shocked everyone. It was effortless. He killed God Dong of the Gold Eldar on the spot. Such strength. It was probably not much worse than Shi Yang's. In this way, the Qinyuan sacred ground could be regarded as a force with top powerhouses. The only difference was that there were too few powerful figures, not as many as there were in the Great Zhao sacred ground. King of Azure Billows, who had been silent. At this time, he suddenly said, if we want to attack the 5 elements Eldar, I suggest that we attack the water Eldar. Why? Qin Yuanbai looked puzzled. King of Azure Billows said, the 5 elements Eldar basically have means of self-protection. Among them, the Gold Eldar has the Gungjin Sword Realm, which is similar to the Shadow Clan's Dark Shadow Canopy and has more killing power. It's not easy to break through the Gungjin Sword Realm. As for the Wood Eldar, they have similar means. King of Azure Billows' words. It gave the others a certain understanding of the 5 elements Eldar. Then, Fang Xinglan said in a deep voice, so the Water Eldar doesn't have means of self-protection? Of course the Water Eldar does. I don't know if you've heard of the Chen River, but the first Water Eldar in the world was born in the Chen River. Since then, any spiritual intelligence born in the rivers and seas of the world has been classified as a Water Eldar. Therefore, the Water Eldar's means are similar to the Chen River, which they call the Bitter Sea. Of course, compared with the real Chen River, it's far inferior. But even so, it's not easy for ordinary people to cross the Bitter Sea. King of Azure Billows paused for a moment. Then he said with a faint smile, however, I, the Eldar, have a 7-seal Taoist weapon spirit ship, which was refined by a true immortal in the ancient times. Except for the Chen River, no water in the world can stop the spirit ship. Unless the Water Eldar has a true immortal who personally set up the Bitter Sea, it can't stop the spirit ship. The 7-seal Taoist weapon spirit ship. This was the real trump card of King of Azure Billows. Fang Xinglan asked anxiously, how big is the spirit ship and how many people can it hold? Elder Fang, you should know that a Taoist weapon can freely change its size, so it can hold practitioners. But the more people there are, the more energy it will consume. According to my estimation, the spirit ship can hold 1 million people at most. If it exceeds this number, it may not work. King of Azure Billows gave a conservative estimate. In this regard, the others were also satisfied. It was enough to hold 1 million people. Qin Yuanbai smiled faintly. The main purpose of attacking the Water Eldar is to deal with the Celestial Being practitioners. The Water Eldar below the Celestial Being level is not a problem. But this time we can issue some missions. Anyone above the physical invulnerability realm who is willing to go with the army can go to attack the Water Eldar. Okay. In Bancheng nodded. The human clan was planning to attack the 5 elements Eldar. The 5 elements Eldar. Now they were in a passive state of defense. With the death of Dong Shun, the Gold Eldar's strength had been greatly reduced. So far, there were only 2 celestial beings at the 7th level. At this moment, just as King of Azure Billows said, the Gold Eldar took the initiative to give up part of its territory and then condensed its power to set up the Gungjin Sword Realm, turning this place into a dangerous place except for the Gold Eldar. Similarly, both the Wood Eldar and the Water Eldar were the same. There was no other way. In the 10,000 clan battlefield, if any force entered a weakened state, it would be targeted by other forces. The 5 elements Eldar. They could be considered a mid-tier race, and the territory they occupied was not small. Judging from the current trend of heaven and earth, the more territory it occupied and the more experts it produced, the stronger the trend of heaven and earth it obtained. The trend of heaven and earth the 5 elements Eldar controlled was not small. In this case, naturally, many clans and forces had their eyes on the 5 elements Eldar. In the past, the 5 elements Eldar was not weak and was a vassal of the demon clan. No clan would easily attack. But it was different now. The 5 elements Eldar's strength had been greatly reduced. Even if they had the demon clan skin, it was useless. In the 10,000 clan battlefield, no matter how strong an ally was, it was only an ally's strength. Whenever a war broke out, it would affect a lot of things. Even if the demon clan was strong. At this time, they did not dare to act recklessly. Or else, the situation of this top clan would become difficult. At this moment, the demon clan's territory was also preparing their troops. Tianhong was in the main city, listening to the reports of others. After a while, Tianhong said, let's put the 5 elements Eldar's matter aside. Don't worry too much about it for now. If any clan attacks the 5 elements Eldar, we have a reason to intervene. We can't fail again. Otherwise, everyone will know that the demon clan's strength has been greatly reduced. By then, it will be more difficult for our clan to advance further. During this time, Tianhong was also under a lot of pressure. The main reason was, it was because the demon clan's army had failed to attack the illusory tribe. That was right. They had failed. As a top clan, destroying a small clan like the illusory tribe was just a matter of waving their hands. But now in the 10,000 clan battlefield, the demon clan had failed to attack the illusory tribe. The reason was that the illusory tribe had many reinforcements. But this was not a reason for the demon clan to fail. If the demon clan was at their peak, no matter how many reinforcements there were, the demon clan was confident that they could take them down in one fell swoop. But not now. The demon clan's strength had been greatly reduced. They did not even have a great sage in the 10th level of the celestial being realm. There were not even many almighty experts. As such, the failure of the demon clan's attack on the illusory tribe was unexpected but also reasonable. It was acceptable for them to fail once. But if they failed again and again, the demon clan's power would fall to the freezing point. So, Tianhong did not dare to act rashly. Instead, he waited silently for a suitable opportunity to act. He had to ensure that the demon clan had an absolute chance of winning the second battle. Then, Tianhong continued, "How's the progress of collecting the blood of living beings?" Hearing this, a demon saint replied in a deep voice, "We have sent most of our clansmen out. All the collected blood of living beings has been transported back to our clan's mystic realm as soon as possible." Speaking of this, he looked a little puzzled. "Lord Tianhong, may I ask why the demon emperor wants to collect the blood of living beings?" The other demon saints also looked puzzled at this time. The matter of collecting the blood of living beings. It was not a big deal, but it was not small either. If this spread out, it would definitely cause some unnecessary controversy. Tianhong said calmly, "You know that the heavenly demon temple has been damaged. The main purpose of collecting the blood of living beings is to nurture the heavenly demon temple. Otherwise, the demon clan will never have any chance of winning against the human clan. But you can't spread this matter without permission. If you know, just keep it to yourself." The heavenly demon temple. The other demon saints looked at each other with a look of realization. If that was the case, then it was understandable. In the demon clan's mystic realm of the 4 major continents, the original heavenly demon temple had been placed in the dragon transformation pool. As for the original dragon transformation pool water, it had turned scarlet at this time. The demon emperor was expressionless as he poured all the collected blood of living beings into the dragon transformation pool. He could only smell the stench of blood in the air. Then the scarlet pool water seemed to be boiling as it kept bubbling. "I want more blood. Kill a few more, then I'll have a chance to recover. If you can kill a few true immortals for me, I can even transcend the tribulation and become a 4-tribulation Zhu Bing. At that time, even the sky-breaking halberd may not be able to break my defense." The heavenly demon temple's urgent voice came from the dragon transformation pool. The demon emperor was expressionless as he poured the last of the blood into the pool. He said indifferently, "Let's not talk about killing true immortals for now. The current situation in the 4 major continents is not suitable for killing true immortals. When the demon abyss arrives, Ben Huang will kill those demon gods and use their blood to nourish you." A 4-tribulation Zhu Bing was powerful, but the difficulty of advancing was not ordinary. Given the current situation of the heavenly demon temple, the demon emperor was not confident that he could help them advance to a 4-tribulation Zhu Bing. The opening of the 10,000 race battlefield. At most, he could collect blood and let them recover from their previous injuries. Apart from that, there was no other way. The heavenly demon temple was a little regretful. Killing demon gods is also possible, but it will take a little longer. Regarding this, the demon emperor did not reply. After the news that the human clan had conquered half of the shadow clan's territory was sent back, Emperor Zhao immediately ordered the human clan experts to go to the shadow clan's territory to build a city, to fight for the general trend of the world. It was not as simple as occupying territory in the 10,000 race battlefield. It was the same in the 4 major continents. The people who were ordered to go this time, they were the East City Lord Huazhan and the West City Lord. Because most of the experts of the Great Zhao were now in the 10,000 race battlefield, among the remaining experts, the 4 city lords were the strongest. Flying in the air, the West City Lord said with some confusion, "Why did His Majesty send the 2 of us to scout the way? Just send someone to the Qinyuan sacred ground to ask for 2 teleportation arrays, and then throw one over to the Shadow Clan. Moreover, the Shadow Clan also has a city. When the time comes, we can just take it over." Could it be that the Shadow Clan dares to go back on their word? The teleportation array of the Qinyuan sacred ground. It was now famous. It was just that the Qin Emperor did not make a move easily, so the teleportation array had always been a scarce resource. But if Emperor Zhao really asked, the Qin Emperor could not refuse. At this time, he could just send someone over and throw down a teleportation array. In the West City Lord's view, there was no need for them to do it personally. Huazhan said lightly, "Although the Shadow Clan won't go back on their word, we can't guarantee that they will do something. Let's just go over there. Anyway, staying in the human clan's territory is going to make us go moldy. Speaking of this, it seems that you are about to break through to the Supreme Realm." The West City Lord turned his head to look at Huazhan and changed the topic. "It's just a thin line. How can it be so easy to break through?" Huazhan shook his head, looking emotional. Hearing this, the West City Lord had an envious look on his face. "It's just a thin line. You and I entered the Imperial Court on the same day, but after so many years, you are about to break through to the Supreme Realm, but I am still in the 5th tier of the Celestial Being. Sometimes, the gap between people really isn't that big." After saying this, the West City Lord heaved a heavy sigh. His talent was not weak, but it was not very strong either. Reaching the current realm was almost the limit. It was undoubtedly difficult to break through to the Supreme Realm. In comparison, Huazhan's strength was the most powerful among the 4 city lords. And so was his strength. This was why he was qualified to be the leader of the 4 city lords. Hearing this, Huazhan did not know what to say. In the end, he could only comfort him. Talent has never determined the height of a cultivator. If Brother Zhao concentrates on cultivation, there is hope for you to break through to the Supreme Realm. Brother Hua, you don't have to comfort me. The West City Lord shook his head and said with a wry smile, "When this is over, I may resign from the position of West City Lord and enter the 10,000 clan battlefield to try my luck." "You want to enter the 10,000 clan battlefield?" Huazhan was shocked. The other party's words were completely beyond his expectations. The 10,000 clan battlefield is now a meat grinder. It hasn't been open for long, but the number of supreme beings who have died has reached double digits. The number of cultivators below the heavenly human realm is even more numerous. If Brother Zhao enters the 10,000 clan battlefield, I'm afraid the risk is too great, Huazhan advised. Entering the 10,000 clan battlefield. In his opinion, it was too risky. Although Huazhan was in charge of the human territory, he was always aware of the information in the 10,000 clan battlefield. During this period of time, he was also very clear about the great battle that had happened in the 10,000 clan battlefield. Because of this, Huazhan did not agree with the West City Lord entering the 10,000 clan battlefield. Although the 10,000 clan battlefield is dangerous, it also has great opportunities. At our level, if we want to break through, we need to cultivate in seclusion and look for that mysterious flash of inspiration. Or we need to go through a life and death battle and find the opportunity to break through. The West City Lord did not think much of it. He smiled and said, "I have already made up my mind. Brother Hua, you don't have to persuade me anymore." He paused for a moment. Then he continued, "Moreover, I don't have much lifespan left. If this continues, I may die in 1,000 years. Instead of dying, it's better to fight to the death. If I don't succeed, I will die. I believe that if Brother Hua reaches this stage, you will make the same choice." After that, the West City Lord smiled and said, "Okay, let's not talk about this. Let's go to the Shadow Clan's territory first." "Okay." Huazhan nodded slightly and did not talk too much about this issue. He could tell the West City Lord had really made up his mind. In that case, Huazhan would not deliberately stop him too much. Everyone had their own path to walk. Since the other party had already made a decision, he could only respect his choice. Moreover, Just as the West City Lord said, the 10,000 clan battlefield was dangerous, but it was also full of opportunities. If one could survive a long battle inside, the probability of breaking through was much higher than cultivating alone. Perhaps I should also enter the 10,000 clan battlefield. For no reason, a thought came to Huajian's mind. He was now only one step away from becoming a supreme being. But whether he could really break through still depended on probability. If he could enter the 10,000 clan battlefield, Huajian had absolute confidence that he could break through. Not long after, the two arrived at the Shadow Clan's territory. At this moment, in the Shadow Clan's territory, huge pits appeared one after another. That was where the Shadow Clan city was originally located, but now the city had disappeared, so only a few huge pits were left. Seeing this, Huajian and the West City Lord looked at each other and saw the same expression in each other's eyes. As expected, the Shadow Clan did not intend to leave too many things for them. Then, Huajian said loudly, "We are cultivators of the human clan, and we are here to take over the Shadow Clan's territory under the orders of Emperor Zhao. I hope Emperor Zhao can make things convenient for us." As his voice fell, after a while, the void shattered. A finger drew across the Shadow Clan's territory and finally left a black silk line on the ground. Outside the black line belongs to the human clan, and inside the black line is the Shadow Clan's territory. The Shadow Emperor's indifferent voice came out and quickly disappeared. The two did not care. Huajian cupped his hands slightly and said with a faint smile, "Shadow Emperor is generous. I thank you on behalf of the human clan." Hearing this sentence, the void vibrated slightly, and a powerful aura was faintly discernible. Inside the Shadow Clan's secret realm, the Shadow Emperor's face was gloomy. Although he looked like a black shadow, now he was even darker. The Shadow Clan was defeated. Being forced to abandon half of their territory already made him feel very pained. Under such circumstances, Huajian provoked him with words, which made the Shadow Emperor even more furious. If it weren't for the two human emperors of the human clan, he would have attacked and directly killed Huajian. "Human clan, we are not done with this matter." The Shadow Emperor suppressed the anger in his heart, but his eyes were frighteningly cold. After a long time, all of his anger and killing intent turned into a long sigh. The Shadow Emperor also felt a little weak now. The Shadow Clan set up the Shadow Canopy, which was equivalent to binding their hands and feet. The other clans could not attack, but the Shadow Clan could not leave either. Because the Shadow Canopy was an absolute defense, the people inside could not leave, and the people outside could not enter. So when the Shadow Canopy was set up, the Shadow Clan lost the possibility of advancing, unless the Shadow Clan broke the Shadow Canopy. But in that case, the Shadow Clan did not have the strength to face the armies of the other clans. It could be said that the 10,000 clan battlefield had just opened, and the Shadow Clan had already been defeated. It was not a complete defeat, but it was close. Chapter 682. In the sea. A huge ship braved the wind and waves, sailing on the surface of the sea. This was the 10,000 races battlefield. Normally speaking, there was no sea in the 10,000 races battlefield. But because this was the territory of the Water Eldar, there was a sea. Why haven't we seen the end after sailing in the sea for so long? On the spirit ship, Qin Yuanbai's expression was solemn. It started from the moment they entered the restrictions set up by the Water Eldar. Then until now, 5 or 6 days had passed. With the speed of the spirit ship, 5 or 6 days was enough to cross hundreds of millions of miles. The entire 10,000 races battlefield was not hundreds of millions of miles. The small sea in front of them could not be bigger than the 10,000 races battlefield. But even so, the spirit ship still had not reached the end of the sea. Not only that, they could not even see the way they came from. Such a change not only made Qin Yuanbai and the others feel troubled, but even Xia Kun and the Golden Rock King did not look too good. Xia Kun said in a deep voice, "The sea of bitterness is boundless. There is no shore to turn back. King of Azure Billows, are you sure you can break out of here?" "That's right. If you are not sure, we might consider sending a message to the sacred city and ask Xiao Chengfeng to rescue them." The Golden Rock King added. Compared to the others, those who came out of the heavenly pattern island knew more about the Sea of Bitterness. It was precisely because of this that they understood the power of the Sea of Bitterness. The Sea of Bitterness was boundless. There was no shore to turn back. There was once a true immortal trapped in the Sea of Bitterness. There was a true immortal who wandered in the Sea of Bitterness for 100,000 years. In the end, when his lifespan was exhausted, he did not reach the other side of the Sea of Bitterness. This matter, it made the Sea of Bitterness famous. Hearing this, King of Azure Billows said with a faint smile, "You don't have to worry. The spirit ship is my Eldar's treasure. Although the Sea of Bitterness in front of us looks powerful, it has not reached the point of besieging the spirit ship. The Water Eldar does not have a true immortal, and this is not the Sea of Bitterness formed by a true immortal. You may not have noticed, but the spirit ship could have walked out of the Sea of Bitterness long ago. It's just that the Water Eldar's experts interfered, causing us to keep going in circles in the Sea of Bitterness." King of Azure Billows' words made the others' expressions changed. Immediately, Holy Fire spread his divine will. After a long time, she finally noticed some clues. The King of Emerald Billows is right. There are indeed some traces of strong cultivators around, but these traces are too well hidden. If he hadn't mentioned it, I wouldn't have noticed it. Qin Yuanbai immediately asked upon hearing Holy Fire's words. "Fire Sage, do you have a way to break it?" "There's no other way." Holy Fire shook his head, then explained, "The Vermilion Bird tribe is born with the fire element, while the Embittered Sea is born with the water element. Water and fire counter each other, and the Embittered Sea's water element is stronger than my own fire element. Unless I can cultivate the true innate divine fire, there is no way to counter it." Innate divine fire. It was one of the most powerful divine fires in the world. If he had a divine flame of this level, Holy Fire was confident that he could burn the entire Sea of Bitterness dry. King Bitao nodded and said, "Holy Fire is right. The connate divine fire at its peak might be able to restrain the Embittered Sea. But the Vermilion Bird tribe can't control the true connate divine fire without becoming a true immortal." Subsequently, he comforted them. "Actually, you don't have to worry too much. Although the Water Eldar's experts have intervened, they can't stop the spirit ship from sailing. At most, they can delay it for a while. You may not see it, but I can feel that the other side of the Sea of Bitterness is approaching." For the Eldar's supreme treasure, King Bitao had absolute confidence. Even though he had been in the Sea of Bitterness for several days, he had never shown any signs of panic. Golden Rock King secretly transmitted his voice. "Are you really sure? If not, don't try to be brave. If all the cultivators on the ship die in the Sea of Bitterness, neither of us will have a good ending." To this, King Bitao rolled his eyes at Golden Rock King. Indeed, he was too lazy to explain so much. The Sea of Bitterness? Nyo Dali stood at the bow of the ship, looking at the vast sea in front of him with a puzzled expression. Qin Yuanbai, who was standing beside him, also noticed something strange. "Elder Nyo, do you know something about the Sea of Bitterness?" Oh, I don't know much. I just feel that it sounds a little familiar." Nyo Dali didn't react. He touched his horns and smiled honestly. When King Bitao talked about the Sea of Bitterness, he felt that it sounded a little familiar. It seemed that he had some understanding of the Sea of Bitterness before. Nyo Dali thought back carefully but couldn't find any reason. Could it be that the bloodline in my body has interacted with the Sea of Bitterness before? No, it should have interacted with the Water Eldar. Nyo Dali thought of the bloodline in his body. As he entered the 10,000 clan battlefield, he found that more and more memories emerged in his mind. It felt like the memories in his bloodline were gradually recovering. When he killed God Dong, it also triggered the power of his bloodline. So, Nyo Dali was now very curious about his own situation. He also wanted to know what kind of bloodline flowed in his body, just as the spirit ship was sailing on the Sea of Bitterness. On the other side of the Sea of Bitterness, there were 2 Water Eldar experts standing there. They were the only 2 Water Eldar experts left. They were not only the 2 Water Eldar experts in the 10,000 tribe battlefield, but also the last two Water Eldar experts. In other words, except for Waterling Huang, there were only two Water Eldar experts above the 7th level of the Celestial Being realm left. The Sea of Bitterness can't stop them. According to this trend, they will walk out of the Sea of Bitterness in 2 days at most. Qinyue's face was solemn and her eyebrows were tightly knitted together. In order to set up the Sea of Bitterness, the loss of the Water Eldar was not ordinary. The Water Eldar was a race derived from the wisdom of the water spirits of heaven and earth. The Sea of Bitterness. It was a dangerous place formed by gathering the water spirits of heaven and earth. In other words, in order to form the Sea of Bitterness, many Water Eldar had to be sacrificed. The Sea of Bitterness in front of them was created. The Water Eldar had paid too much. If it could not be of any use, then the Water Eldar would have suffered a great loss. I don't know the origin of that ship, but it could safely cross the Sea of Bitterness. Without that ship, the human race would definitely not have the ability to cross the Sea of Bitterness. Is it possible for us to destroy that ship? Chunzhou's expression was not too good. Now, only he and Qinyue were Water Eldar experts above the 7th level of the Celestial Being realm. If the human race crossed the Sea of Bitterness, with the current strength of the Water Eldar, there was absolutely no possibility of resisting. But the problem now was, the Sea of Bitterness could not stop the human race. We can only try and see if there is a chance to swallow them up. Qinyue shook her head slightly. Then she used a technique to cause the Sea of Bitterness to ripple. Seeing this, Chunzhou did not hesitate and also used a technique to merge into the Sea of Bitterness. Rumble, the sky of the Sea of Bitterness suddenly changed. Violent waves appeared on the calm surface of the sea. Shocking waves suddenly rose from the surface of the sea, covering the sky and the earth, wanting to completely drown the spirit ship. Oh no, the Water Eldar has launched an attack. King Emerald Billow's expression changed slightly. Then he looked at Holy Fire and said, "Holy Fire, please stop these waves. Don't let them drown the spirit ship." Among the people present, only Holy Fire, who was in the 8th level of the Celestial Being realm, had the ability to do so. Okay, Holy Fire nodded, then immediately saw her vital essence surging. Vast divine fire soared into the sky, forming a shield that covered the entire spirit ship. Just as the fire shield rose, the waves had already crushed down. The two collided. A deafening sound was heard. Under the attack of the Sea of Bitterness, the fire shield shook violently, as if it would shatter at any time. Seeing this, Holy Fire's pretty face was also slightly pale. The power of the Sea of Bitterness was too strong, and she was only in the 8th level of the Celestial Being realm. It was not easy to resist the attack of the Sea of Bitterness. I can't hold on for long. If you have any other tricks, use them quickly. Holy Fire's voice was a little urgent. At this time, she did not dare to force anything. Let me do it. Nyodali paused for a moment, then said. Hearing this, everyone's eyes fell on him. They were also very curious about this green ox who killed the Golden Eldar, Dongshun. The situation in front of them. Holy Fire obviously could not hold on. The rest was to see if this green ox had the possibility of breaking the situation. Under the gaze of many people, Nyodali also felt a little smug, but he quickly collected his thoughts, looked at the waves that covered the spirit ship, and then closed his eyes. A moment later, he opened his eyes again, but the aura on his body had completely changed. Then, Nyodali threw out a simple punch, but it seemed to involve the power of heaven and earth, and a huge and endless phantom suddenly appeared. Accompanied by the bombardment of the fist, the phantom also launched an attack. Boom! The waves that filled the sky were all torn apart by the fist, and the entire Sea of Bitterness shook violently. Outside the Sea of Bitterness, in the horrified eyes of Qinyu and Chenzhou, they only saw the vast Sea of Bitterness being hit by a terrifying force, and then it was torn into 2 halves. Not only that, a terrifying fist reflected in the eyes of the two. Be careful. Not good. Qinyu and Chenzhou's faces changed dramatically, and suddenly, a vast amount of vital energy erupted, bombarding the fist. Boom! The two collided, and the vital energy was instantly shattered. Finally, Qin Yu and Qin Zhou both flew out, and their bodies cracked a lot in the air, and after landing, they were already seriously injured. Such a turn of events. It alarmed the water Eldar, and also completely shocked the people on the spirit ship. This. Qin Yuanbai's words became stuttering. The other people's faces were also dull. They only saw Nyo Dali slowly retracting his fist, and the originally vast sea of bitterness had been completely torn apart. No one had expected. How could this azure bull be so tyrannical? As strong as the sea of bitterness. It was torn apart by the opponent's fist. However, after all, the sea of bitterness was a restriction set by the water Eldar. As the power disappeared, the sea of bitterness also slowly healed. Seeing this scene, King of Azure Billows did not waste any time, and directly urged the spirit ship to break through the air, taking advantage of the crack in the sea of bitterness that had not completely healed, and rushed out first. Wherever the spirit ship passed, all the broken sea of bitterness and space were all suppressed. Not long after, the spirit ship had already appeared outside the sea of bitterness, and after crossing the sea of bitterness, it entered a piece of land, which was the water Eldar's territory. At this moment, King of Azure Billows had already put away the spirit ship, and all the people on the spirit ship had officially stepped into the water Eldar's territory. At the same time, the changes in the Sea of Bitterness and the damage to Qin Yu and Chen Zhou also shook the entire water Eldar. After all, the Sea of Bitterness was a place that surrounded the entire water Eldar's territory. Under such circumstances, the Sea of Bitterness being torn apart naturally could not be hidden from the eyes and ears of others. What's going on? What the hell happened? Several water Eldar's celestial beings stepped out, and their faces were also full of shock. Soon, they saw a group of human cultivators appear. Not good. The human clan is invading. Everyone prepare for battle. A water Eldar's celestial being shouted directly, completely sounding the alarm. Immediately, all the cultivators in the water Eldar did not have time to be shocked, and entered a state of battle. It was also at this moment, the two water Eldar's powerful figures also recovered a little, and finally appeared in front of Qin Yuanbai and the others. Is the human clan really going to kill us all? Chun Yu's pretty face was gloomy. She did not expect the Sea of Bitterness to be broken so quickly. Thinking of the fist that tore the Sea of Bitterness, Chun Yu's heart also trembled slightly. Too strong. To be able to tear the Sea of Bitterness with one punch, even if he was not an emperor, he was not far away. Such a strong person. The water Eldar had absolutely no chance of resisting. While talking, Chen Yu's gaze had already swept back and forth in the crowd. She wanted to find the strong person who tore the Sea of Bitterness. At last, Chen Yu's gaze fell on Yodali. She did not forget. The other party had once killed the Golden Eldar's Goddong, the only Golden Eldar's 9th level celestial being. Among all the strong people, only Green Nyo in front of her could break the Sea of Bitterness. Qin Yuanbai responded with a sneer. The 5 elements Eldar joined forces to attack the Qinyuan sacred ground with the intention of destroying the Qinyuan sacred ground. It's just that the 5 elements Eldar's strength was not enough, so they failed in the end. Now that the Qinyuan sacred ground is attacking the water Eldar, we are just giving them a taste of their own medicine. As early as when we attacked the sacred ground, the water Eldar should have thought of this result. Qin Yuanbai's words. This made the water Eldar's heart sink again, but there was nothing to refute. Indeed, the winner takes all. This was the case. If the human clan had been defeated in the past, the water Eldar would have also occupied the human clan's territory. Thinking of this, Chun Zhou calmed his mind, then cupped his hands and said, "The human clan is powerful, and the water Eldar admits that he is no match for them. If the human clan can be merciful, I, the water Eldar, can become a vassal of the human clan." With the current strength of the water Eldar, it was impossible to survive the disaster. In this way, the only path he could take was to submit to them. Indecisiveness would only lead to chaos. Chen Zhou didn't need to think for too long to make a decision. As for Chen Yu and the other water Eldar celestial beings, although their faces were ugly, they did not object. Obviously, They also knew that this was the only chance for the Water Eldar to survive the disaster. Vassal? Qin Yuanbai shook his head and said calmly, "The human clan does not need the Water Eldar to be a vassal. Today, the Water Eldar only has two chances. The first is to withdraw from the 10,000 clan battlefield, and the second is to be destroyed by us on the 10,000 clan battlefield. Apart from that, there is no third way." The human clan is really going to be so ruthless. Chun Zhou's face was ugly, and there was anger rising in his eyes. This was equivalent to letting the Water Eldar completely give up the momentum of heaven and earth, although it would not be to the extent of extermination. But in this world of great battles, the Water Eldar had to withdraw from the stage. When the great calamity of the demonic abyss arrived, perhaps the Water Eldar would be exterminated because of this. So, Qin Yuanbai's words were equivalent to sentencing the Water Eldar to death. The only difference was, the Water Spirit clan could still survive for a few more decades. Qin Yuanbai said, "I will only give you a quarter of an hour to think about whether you want to withdraw or fight to the death with the Qinyuan sacred ground. There is no need to say anything else. The Water Eldar's momentum of heaven and earth. It must be fought for." Now that the Water Eldar's strength had been greatly reduced, even if this race became a vassal of the Qinyuan sacred ground, it would not play much of a role. As strong as the Waterling Huang was, he was just a 10th level celestial being. In the current situation, he could not play any role at all. Qin Yuanbai was very clear about the current situation. The real purpose of the human clan. It was to fight for the momentum of heaven and earth. Secondly, it was to train troops. If he could persuade the Water Eldar to retreat, it would naturally be a good thing. It would prevent a lot of casualties. But if the Water Eldar resisted stubbornly, Qin Yuanbai would not be stingy with a fight. It was no big deal. All the Water Eldar cultivators would be destroyed. After all, if the Water Eldar was a vassal, the momentum of heaven and earth would still belong to the Water Eldar. It would not be inclined to the human clan at all. Qin Yuanbai's words made the hearts of all the Water Eldar cultivators sink. The soldiers were at the gate. There was nothing more than this. Chun Zhou's face was twisted, and he was struggling to make a decision. After a long time, he looked at Qin Yuanbai and said word by word, "Water Eldar, retreat." After saying this sentence, Chun Zhou seemed to have lost all his strength, and his aura was decadent. "Elder Qin Zhou, you can't retreat. Once you retreat, the Water Eldar, will no longer have any room to maneuver." The Water Eldar Celestials all spoke anxiously. "Shut up," Chen Zhou shouted coldly, then turned around and looked at the Water Eldar Celestials. "Do you have the confidence to start a war with the human clan? Or do you want to bury all my clansmen of the Water Eldar to be satisfied? Those who are willing to fight, stay. Those who are not, follow me and retreat." Immediately after, Chen Zhou looked at Chen Yu again. "Chen Yu, what do you think?" "Retreat." Chun Yu's red lips opened slightly, and finally said slowly. The only two supreme experts made a unanimous decision. The remaining Water Eldar people had nothing to say. Soon, the Water Eldar retreated one after another. In just half a day, there were no longer any clansmen in the Water Eldar's territory. It was also at this time, a powerful emperor's shadow appeared in the sky. At this moment, all the cultivators raised their heads and looked at the largest emperor's shadow. That's the Waterling Huang. The mark left by the Waterling Huang in the 10,000 races battlefield. How did it activate at this time? Any cultivator with a little knowledge would not be unfamiliar with the Waterling Huang. After all, he was one of the emperors of the 10,000 races. Not counting the true immortals, he was also a top expert. At this time, the sudden appearance of the Waterling Huang's shadow naturally attracted everyone's curiosity. All of a sudden, the Waterling Huang's shadow turned into countless streams of light and shot out, disappearing into various places of the 10,000 races battlefield. At the same time, all of a sudden, a kind of understanding rose in everyone's hearts. The Water Eldar had been defeated. Every time a clan completely withdrew from the 10,000 races battlefield, the power mark left behind by the clan's emperor would collapse, turning into treasures and scattered all over the 10,000 races battlefield, blessing other cultivators. After receiving this news, most of the cultivators had gone mad. Whether the water Eldar was defeated or not, it had nothing to do with them. What really mattered to them was, it was the treasure left behind by the waterling Huang. No matter what, the other party was also the emperor of a clan. Even a little bit of power was a rare treasure for ordinary cultivators. So, after this power was released, Yizichen looked at Yizichen. Many cultivators chased in the direction of the flowing light. I saw a flowing light appear there. It should be a treasure left behind by the waterling Huang. Speaking of which, what kind of treasure can the waterling Huang leave behind? Who knows? Anyway, for a powerhouse of this level, anything left behind would be enough for us to eat. Lu Qinghong and a group of players rushed towards one of the locations. A treasure left behind by a 10th level celestial being. It was not something that other things could compare to. For the players, at present, the strongest was only at the spirit martial realm. Such strength, compared to the 10th level celestial being, was more than 100,000 miles away. However, the greater the gap, this proved that the things left behind by the waterling Huang could be of greater use. It wasn't just the players. Even other cultivators, and even some celestial being cultivators, were ready to make a move. Those who could truly remain calm. Most likely, they were experts above the Saint Realm. For experts of this level, unless it was a complete waterling Huang's blood essence, it would still be of great use. But like now, a drop of waterling Huang's blood essence was scattered in all directions, so it wouldn't be of much use. So, compared to the treasure formed by the waterling Huang's blood essence, they were more concerned about the destruction of the water Eldar. The water Eldar was destroyed. Was it done by the humans? In the territory of the Wood Eldar, there were Wood Eldar experts who were extremely shocked. They were both 5 elements Eldar. The water Eldar was now completely beaten out of the 10,000 races battlefield. The Wood Eldar also felt this kind of threat. There were forces that could make the water Eldar completely withdraw from the 10,000 races battlefield. Then, they could also drive the Wood Eldar out of the 10,000 races battlefield. In this way, the Wood Eldar experts couldn't remain calm even if they wanted to. After a short period of shock, immediately, some Wood Eldar experts left the 10,000 races battlefield, intending to report the news back to the Woodling Huang, and then thoroughly investigate the Water Eldar's situation. The Water Eldar was defeated. Tianhong's tone was also solemn. Then, he looked at the few beast saints and said in a deep voice, "If I'm not wrong, the ones who attacked the Water Eldar should be the humans." After saying that, a beast saint replied in disbelief, "The Water Eldar has already set up a sea of bitterness around the territory. Without the help of an emperor, who can cross the sea of bitterness and enter the Water Eldar's territory?" The Water Eldar's sea of bitterness. It was one of the most powerful restrictions. Although it wasn't as terrifying as Qianhe, it wasn't weak either. Even now, it wasn't easy for the beast race to cross the Water Eldar's sea of bitterness. However, even so, the Water Eldar was still defeated. Such an unforeseen event naturally shocked the beast race experts. Tianhong said, "It's no longer important why the humans were able to cross the sea of bitterness. What's important is that the humans first occupied half of the Shadow Clan's territory, and now they've completely chased the Water Eldar out of the 10,000 races battlefield. Currently, the humans have occupied a lot of the world's momentum. If we don't suppress them, it'll be much more difficult for our race to contend against them." "Lord Tianhong, what are your plans?" "Send a message to the Blood Eldar. Now, we must join forces to suppress the humans. Otherwise, if the humans continue to grow stronger, no other race in the 10,000 races battlefield will be able to contend against them." Tianhong's expression was indifferent. In the current situation, the humans were considered the most powerful force in the 10,000 races battlefield. If the 10,000 races alliance army hadn't collapsed because of Qin Shujian, the humans wouldn't have dominated. However, there were no ifs. It was an undeniable fact that the humans were powerful. Right now, they had to suppress the humans. Otherwise, if the humans were allowed to continue growing, it would be a huge problem. In the Water Eldar's territory, Qin Yuanbai said, immediately occupy all the cities. Ask the forgers who are traveling with the army to investigate carefully. Make sure that there are no traps left by the Water Eldar here. No problem. Ling Huayu nodded and then left with a group of forgers. Afterward, Qin Yuanbai said, Elder Fong, please open a portal to connect to the Qinyuan sacred ground. Okay. Fong Xinglan nodded. The Water Eldar's territory is surrounded by the Sea of Bitterness, which is a natural danger zone. In this way, we don't have to worry about other races sending troops to attack this place. Qin Yuanbai smiled. Because of the Sea of Bitterness, the Water Eldar's territory was easy to defend and difficult to attack. The humans occupied this place. They didn't have to worry about other forces attacking and robbing them. In this way, the humans didn't need to divide their forces to guard this place, which could save them a lot of trouble. This was a good thing. King Bitao nodded and said, yes, it's not easy to cross the Sea of Bitterness. If the Water Eldar hadn't retreated just now and killed all of them to fill the Sea of Bitterness, then the power of the Sea of Bitterness would have become even more powerful. After he finished speaking, King Bitao found that the people around him were looking at him strangely. Qin Yuanbai and the others now looked at King Bitao again. He killed all the Water Eldar and then filled the Sea of Bitterness. They didn't realize it. It turned out that this fatty's heart was so ruthless. Why are you looking at me? Did I say something wrong? King Bitao didn't understand. After a while, only then did he react, and then his face darkened. I'm just stating a fact. There's nothing to be surprised about. Besides, the Water Eldar has retreated now, so it's impossible for them to chase after and kill them. King Bitao, don't misunderstand. Qin Yuanbai laughed. He didn't waste time on this matter and immediately ordered everyone to occupy the city. Immediately afterward, Qin Yuanbai sent the news of the capture of the Water Eldar back to the Qinyuan sacred ground. They kicked the Water Eldar out so quickly? After receiving the news, Qin Shujian's face was also stunned. But soon, he came back to his senses. It was a good thing to capture the Water Eldar's territory. As the Great Zhao Empire captured half of the Shadow Clan's territory, the Human Clan gained some momentum. Together with it, even the Human Clan's fate had become much stronger. But the problem was, the fate of the Human Clan was now controlled by two people. When the Shadow Clan's territory was captured, the Human Clan's fate mainly increased on the side of the Great Zhao Empire. It had little to do with the Qinyuan sacred ground. Although Qin Shujian said that he did not care too much about this matter, but in fact, he had some thoughts in his mind. Now that the Qinyuan sacred ground had captured the Water Eldar's territory, it was naturally a good thing. The Water Eldar's territory has been captured. The next step is to send people over to take over. Qin Shujian thought to himself. Then, he quickly thought of something else. That was, the Qinyuan sacred ground had no strong cultivators left. All the Celestials had gone to the 10,000 clan battlefield. In the huge Qinyuan sacred ground, Qin Shujian and Mu Yang, who was rooted in the Qinyuan sacred ground, were probably the only celestial-level cultivators. Thinking of this, Qin Shujian sighed. It seems that I have to make a trip in person again. It's troublesome. The Water Spirit's secret realm. Now, all the Water Eldar's cultivators had withdrawn from the territory and returned to the secret realm. According to the matters discussed at the Myriad Clan meeting, any clan that was defeated had to give up their territory. So, Ling Huang didn't have the courage to violate this matter. When Qin Shujian came over, the Water Eldar had completely sealed off the secret realm. But the Water Eldar's territory had now become a ruin. The spirit veins had been excavated. The city had been destroyed. Before the Water Eldar sealed off the secret realm, it took away everything that could be taken away and destroyed everything that could not be taken away. What could be left for the Human Clan? It was just a territory. For this, Qin Shujian had expected this. He took out an array disk from the Heaven List and threw it in the Water Eldar's territory. Then, he took out a set of array flags and completely covered the Water Eldar's territory. The array was activated. The array disk was activated. Qin Shujian took a step inside and returned to the eastern continent in the next instant. In the Qinyuan sacred ground, he found Jingfeng and the others. Emperor Qin. In the Myriad clan battlefield, the Qinyuan sacred ground has already taken over the Water Eldar's territory. Ben Huang has set up an array in the Water Eldar's territory. You can go there immediately through the transmission array. Within a month, the city must be built and sent people to occupy it. Completely occupy the world there. Qin Shujian said lightly. Hearing this, Zhang Fang cupped his hands and replied, Yes, Emperor Qin. Then, he immediately left. Since the establishment of the Qinyuan sacred ground, many of the original disciples of the Yuan sect were also sent to the sacred ground. However, if they wanted to build a city in the Water Eldar's territory, it was not enough to rely on the people of one sect. With the Qin Emperor's decree in hand, Zhang Fang directly mobilized most of the people in the Qinyuan sacred ground and went to the Water Eldar's territory together. 10 days passed. There was an infinite power of heaven and earth. Qin Shujian felt something. When he took out the heaven list, he saw that the human clan's fate had risen a lot. Not only that, at this moment, all the human clan cultivators seemed to have some kind of enlightenment in their hearts, some bottlenecks that had troubled them for a long time. At this moment, all of them felt as if they had been enlightened. Soon, many cultivators broke through. In the Qinyuan sacred ground, there was a vision in the sky. There were powerhouses breaking through to the diviner realm. The power of heaven and earth. Qin Shujian whispered softly. For the first time, he felt the power of heaven and earth. Just now, the human clan's fate had risen greatly. He knew that Zhang Fang and the others had completely occupied the Water Eldar's territory. And with the rise of the human clan's fate, the power of heaven and earth also descended. Under the impact of this power of heaven and earth, even Qin Shujian himself seemed to have sensed something from the unseen world. However, this feeling was still very weak and not enough for him to break through his original realm. But there was one thing to know. Even with Qin Shujian's current foundation, he could understand it. For other cultivators, the feeling was bound to be even stronger. Godslayer said, There is a saying that the one who has the power of heaven and earth will own the world. Every time there is a great battle, it is an opportunity for the creatures of heaven and earth. Any force that can seize the power of heaven and earth can also take advantage of this opportunity to rise. If the human clan can occupy all the power of heaven and earth, I can guarantee that within 10 years, a true immortal will be born in the human clan. A true immortal will be born in 10 years. Qin Shujian's expression froze. Godslayer's certainty surprised him a little. Yes, and it won't be as simple as a true immortal, Godslayer said in a deep voice. The power of heaven and earth is far more powerful than you think. Unfortunately, from ancient times until now, no one has been able to truly take all the power of heaven and earth for themselves. The ancient heavenly court couldn't do it, and neither could the ancient demon emperor. Whoever wants to take all the power of heaven and earth is bound to experience a tribulation. But this tribulation will be very terrible, so terrible that even a 9th-level immortal will be turned into ashes in the face of this tribulation. How much do you want to get? How much do you have to pay? Qin Shujian could understand Godslayer's words. However, he didn't care very much. At least so far, Qin Shujian hadn't thought of taking all the power of heaven and earth for himself. This time, after capturing the Water Eldar, the human clan should be able to give birth to a lot of celestial beings. He was already very satisfied with this result. What the Qinyuan sacred ground lacked now was celestial beings, a plundering of the power of heaven and earth. With the birth of many celestial beings, Qin Shujian felt that this was a great thing. He could plunder the power of heaven and earth a few more times. He might be able to give birth to powerful experts. However, Nyodali surprised me. He could easily kill a 9th-level celestial being at the 6th level of the celestial being realm. This kind of potential is a bit too strong. Qin Shujian thought of the message sent back from the 10,000 races battlefield. Senior, do you think that the bloodline of an upper 3 levels of true immortal can really do this? Hearing this, Godslayer said, in addition to the powerful bloodline, He also has the blood essence of the ancient demon emperor. Obtaining the blood essence of an upper 3 levels of true immortal is a great opportunity. It's not impossible for Nyodali to become stronger because of this. In Godslayer's opinion, he couldn't see anything at the celestial being level. Unless, if the other party could grow to become a celestial being, then it was another matter. Emperor Qin, you should be very clear about the power of a 9th level immortal. Xiao Chengfeng is the reincarnation of immortal Lord Haozong. He's only a 7th level celestial being now, but other than you, no emperor below the true immortal realm is his match. If he can break through to the 8th or 9th level of the celestial being realm, he can also become a celestial being. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.